20 years ago, after the Olympus Revolution, humanity received education through virtual reality. The students were upgraded in the Olympus Academy. After graduating, they were hired by the Olympus Alliance and earned money from there. In this era, everyone was like that, so I thought I shouldn't be too different. But all the problems always came unexpectedly. This boy's name was Hansu, or also had the nickname Arthur. That was his thought just now. A cunning old man appeared out of nowhere, showing a wicked face, and sneered at the boy, "I finally found you." At that time, the boy was just a kid who reached level 6, Arthur, and was only 6 years old. The boy was happily walking on the street. Today he had to go to the academy. His mood was very excited, so he didn't pay attention to someone who was targeting him. He looked like he had struck gold, and picked up the kid. "Finally, I found a talented child. I can't believe it." He hugged the boy and flew away before the boy's astonishment. He promised the kid, "This kid has potential. Don't worry, kid, I'll make you the strongest man in the world." The boy was completely bewildered. I was kidnapped by an NPC in the shape of an old man. He was old, but his body was muscular, like the embodiment of strength. He half forced and half invited me to become his disciple. For this boy, the training process was like torture. He had to stand for 12 hours straight, enjoying the special drugs of the old man. It was not training, to be more precise, it was a series of painful days. The hellish training process began like that. To practice survival skills, the boy had to find a way to survive among this pack of gray wolves. One fine day, Hansu sighed and said to his master, "Master, do you know? The highest level warrior right now is at level 89. Isn't that amazing?" The master didn't have any admiration. On the contrary, he looked down on him. "Arthur, what about this kid? Can you see a brat under level 99 as a warrior?" It turned out he was sitting on Hansu's back. The boy was 16 years old then, and had been training for 10 years. Hansu was sweaty all over, but replied, "Whatever you say, he is still at the top one, and no one has surpassed him yet." The master smiled confidently, as if the top one was nothing in his eyes. He stroked his beard and asked the kid, "Don't you believe in your master's strength? Just looking at the appearance is not enough to trust. You should remember that there are many things in the world, never exposed." Hearing these words, Hansu not only didn't believe it but also muttered, "Here we go again, this crazy old man spouts some nonsense philosophy." But the old master continued to show a smug face. "Trust me, good boy. I will help you become the strongest person in the world." Seeing him so confident, Hansu did not answer but only smiled awkwardly. After a few seconds, he asked seriously, "But master, my family background is not good, and I don't have any outstanding items either. So is that impossible?" The master heard these words, his face changed immediately. He angrily hit Hansu's head hard. "Shut up, you bastard. Is level and stats everything? You practiced so poorly just now. Train for another 3 hours. Hansu could only cry in his heart, thinking to himself, "Should I trust this old madman?" Then, every day of my life was extremely painful. I don't know how many winters, how many springs have passed. Time flew like a dog running in the field. In a blink of an eye, it had been 20 years since I started this hellish training process. Finally one day, the old man called Hansu to a small cave, and said solemnly, "Until now, you have done very well, Arthur. I have passed on to you everything I can. Now I can die in peace." This boy was Hansu, 26 years old, who had completed the training after 20 years. After hearing those words, Hansu was not moved but instead thought sternly, "Please go sell salt quickly, old man." Because only he knew, he had to endure bitterness every day. That period of time was too painful for him. He couldn't help but think to himself, "In reality, I was treated like an autistic person. Everyone from family to friends, no one did not discriminate against me. And I could only sigh helplessly, enduring those criticisms. I tried to explain but did not receive any acceptance. The unlimited training in Olympus was still just being beaten non-stop. Hansu still felt sore when he remembered the master's thunderous punches. He muttered to himself, "Really, I don't know how I can endure until now. Although if I wanted, I could just delete the character." Thinking of this, he also had some insights but let it go. It's all over anyway. Hansu looked up and tilted his head to call his master. He began to express his feelings. "You see me as your own child, so I see you as my parents. That's why I endured for 20 years. But I'm not confident enough to survive in this harsh world without you. I still need your guidance." Hearing these words from Hansu, the master seemed a bit indulgent. After a few seconds, he opened his mouth and reassured, "Good boy, you're wrong. Although you are much weaker than me now, you will soon become stronger, right?" Hansu did not answer but screamed in his heart, "Give me a quest, please." In situations like this, the NPC would give the player a quest and let them go do it. He always thought that, but he still continued to act deeply, bowed his head sincerely and said, "No, master. Even if it's just a little, I still need you to teach me more." In fact, what he really thought in his heart was, "Give me a good quest, before you go sell salt." He only saw the old man, after a while of thinking, then nodded and said, "I understand." Hansu was overjoyed. Finally I have a quest." Then the old man continued to instruct, "Don't forget, you are my only disciple, and also my only successor." Hearing that, Hansu cursed in his heart, "That's right, because of this nonsense inheritance, you locked me up for 20 years. He only saw the old man, finally gave him a map with a mark, assigned him a quest, and told him, "Go to this place. Your future lies here." Hansu, after 20 years, finally got a quest, so he was very excited and said, "Thank you for your great kindness in teaching me." He couldn't contain his joy, and kept bowing his head to thank his master. Then suddenly, at this time, the master's body swelled up. He began to make a very horrible sound, "And then the world will have to kneel before you. Go and rule the world." As he said, he emitted a very strong pressure. Very soon after that, the air inside the cave returned to normal. The oil lamp illuminated the cave, but it was also extinguished by the strong wind. Hansu got up from the ground, looked at his master. By the time I got up, he was already dead. Looking at the person who had been with him for 20 years, although he was a bit tyrannical, Hansu also had some thoughts. But he didn't dwell too long. He immediately turned around and continued on his path. He whispered a sentence, "Farewell and don't meet again in the next life, master." After 20 years, I left my master, and those hard training years also ended. It marked the beginning of a new journey. Hansu looked forward to the system in front of him. Finally, the hellish life was over. The system window recalled his past self. I was beaten to death. Every time I tried to get out, but looking at the stats, they were so outstanding. All the stats were almost at 99. Only the luck stat was -99. Hansu was very doubtful. Why is the luck stat negative? At this time, the system finally announced, "Player confirmed." Hansu was very excited. Finally, the system continued to announce, "The forced curse system has been removed. Now you have the right to freely perform the mission of an heir. Along with that, the special barrier system is removed. Now you can escape from the special area Lena." Hansu looked up at the announcement. He couldn't help but smile. Finally, after 20 long years, although he was exhausted, Hansu still sent his last goodbye to the place he lived for 20 years, "Goodbye Lena. And welcome to my new life." Hansu was looking forward to the moment when the system started to connect to another place. "You are leaving the special area Lena." Suddenly, a red alert appeared, "Access denied. Warning detected error." Seeing the warning constantly appearing, Hansu was astonished. What's going on? Warning detected abnormal level. You did not pass the correct standard procedure. Detected abnormal leveling method. According to the law with the authority of Zeus, initialize all the abnormal indicators. Hansu was surprised to the point of being stunned. Wait a minute, what are you doing? He only saw on the display bar, the level of the player Arthur was constantly decreasing. Hansu was so desperate that he wanted to cry. His whole body was sweaty. He shouted loudly to stop the system. What? Wait. Look at the effort of training for 20 years. Hansu was shocked and screamed, You bastard, drop the flag. Stop it right now. Very soon after that, his level hit the bottom at level 0. The system appeared, the abnormal indicator system has been processed. Hansu could only despair and hug his head and scream, Oh life. Unlucky life. Life. Then it was the tragic scene. You see, Hansu had no strength left. He lay in the cave and cried bitterly for 20 years. He had endless resentment, along with the 4-word system window. Looking at his level 1, Hansu smiled bitterly. It's not raining, it's not a dream, but suddenly I found out something. He immediately stood up. Wait, what is this? At that time, he realized these indicators. Hansu thought again. Wait, remember the warnings earlier, what they initialized was just the level. Thinking of this, he felt like he had shed a burden in his heart. He knelt down on the ground, looking at the table in front of him. He muttered to himself, Good, right? A typical example of it is skill. My basic skill, breaking heaven heart. Skill requires at least level 40 to use. Therefore, I cannot use any attack skills. And while being restricted by level, equipping items is also impossible. It means level 1. So, what do these limitations mean? Therefore, level 1 means that we can level up easily. With these stats, we just need to beat some fools, and we can level up quickly and easily. And collect the stats again from the beginning. This is not bad, right? Hansu shed tears of joy again. And now, the life of a loner has passed, and our journey in Olympus begins. Hansu looked at the map that the master gave him again. The first place is the village for beginners. He silently made a resolution, Hansu, although 6 years later than others, but Hansu is very hopeful about the future. He ordered the system to go to AK. This is really the beginning of a new journey. Very soon, Hansu left the cave and moved to another city. The system appeared, You have arrived at AK. Looking at the crowded street, Hansu felt that he had finally returned to the world of normal people. He sighed, It's been 20 years, right? He was very moved, and kept looking around. Looking at this familiar and unfamiliar scene, he missed this square so much. Seeing the cake seller inviting customers on the street, Hansu was like a wild man coming down the mountain, very interested. Oh, there are even street vendors, and there are couples having fun with each other. In this peaceful atmosphere too. How long has it been since I came back? I really came back. Hansu was so moved that he cried. After the time of reintegration into society, he finally remembered the main thing. He rolled up his sleeves and was very excited. Okay, let's go hunting. And then, very soon, Hansu carried a happy face and went to the west gate of SK. As soon as he passed the gate, someone handed out a spear to stop him. Hey, you, stop for a moment. While Hansu didn't understand what was going on, the soldier asked loudly, What level are you? Hansu didn't hide it, but honestly answered, Level 1. The soldier looked at the information board above Hansu's head. Level 1? Arthur 26 years old? The soldier saw someone so old for the first time, but only reached level 1. He could only shake his head and answer, It seems that you are a newcomer, right? Then you have to enter here through the east gate. The soldier was actually worried about Hansu's safety. This is the West Gate, which is more dangerous than a newcomer like you. Hansu was very interested and asked again, is this a restricted area? The soldier impatiently answered, no, it's not. But I advise you to stay away from it. You only have level 1, so you don't have the strength to defeat the fanged rabbits. It's best for you to practice at the East Gate, and then come here later. Hearing those words, Hansu didn't care and smiled as he walked in. I'll be fine. Seeing his back gradually disappear, the soldier also gave up. He didn't listen to me anymore, probably because the players will resurrect. How many times will they die? They are a bunch of daredevils. As he was walking, Hansu suddenly saw a notification board appear. Mission, the worry of the guard. The level of worry is increasing. Hansu was a bit surprised. Oh, a mission? The notification board explained further, the worry of Nono. The guard at the west gate of SK Village is doubting the ability of the players. He predicts that the players will die. Help him relieve his stress. Reward, 30,000 gold. Hansu smiled faintly. God, this guy is too worried, isn't he? Since I accepted the mission, I guess I have to pretend to act a little, right? On this side, the guard at the gate suddenly noticed Hansu. What is he doing? He saw Hansu waving his hand very actively towards the guard. Guard, look over here. The guard looked over there and saw a rabbit with fangs behind Hansu. He was very worried. Next to him, the rabbit with fangs would definitely bite his head. He shouted loudly, gesturing to Hansu, wait, where are you looking? Dodge to the side. Making the guard more worried, Hansu showed a cynical smile. While the rabbit was opening its mouth and rushing towards him, surely the worry was unnecessary. Hansu glanced at the rabbit. As soon as it was close to a hair's breadth, he reacted quickly and immediately punched the rabbit's stomach hard. But the rabbit was very angry and wanted to rush to bite Hansu again. Hansu hit out a stream of air, instantly cutting the rabbit in half. The notification board immediately appeared, you have defeated the rabbit with fangs. You have received 1 gold. You have received experience points. Hansu blew his bloody hand and sighed, these guys are fast, aren't they? Then, he again acted like he had 3 heads and 6 arms, continuously killing the rabbits that were approaching. The guard saw the scene and was very amazed. What the hell is going on? The guard couldn't help but ask Hansu, didn't you say you were level 1? Hansu had just finished dealing with the rabbits and was relaxing. He answered truthfully. He was very interested and asked further, do guards like you have the ability to check the level of the players? The guard was still stunned, scratching his chin, and said, I still find it hard to believe. I wonder what method you used. Hansu smiled and chatted casually, that's a trade secret. He didn't notice that behind him, a wild boar had just appeared. But the guard standing opposite saw it and shouted, that monster is the troublemaker at the west gate, nicknamed the wild boar. Angry, seeing Hansu intending to go over there, the soldier worriedly said, wait, you back off. But Hansu was very confident and continued to go over there, what's there to worry about? The guard soldier reminded loudly, this monster is at a different level. It's very dangerous, you hide behind me. I'll stop it. The soldier said with a panicked face. Hansu didn't listen to the words of the guard at all, and immediately stepped forward, piercing the belly of the unlucky wild boar. The system immediately showed a message, you have leveled up. The guard soldier couldn't believe his eyes again, thinking to himself, I'm sure he's just a newcomer. Am I dreaming? The soldier whispered, he's really a madman. To this point, I can't deny it anymore. At the same time, on Hansu's side, another message appeared, you have completed the mission. The guards worry. You have received the mission completion reward of 30,000 gold. Hansu smiled contentedly at the reward, just a few punches and I earned 30,000 gold? That's good. Explain to everyone, 1 gold in Olympus is equivalent to 1 pure gold bar in real life. After a few seconds, Hansu began to ponder to himself, looking at the display board of my stats, it seems that the strength index has not changed at all. They are always still. Well, whatever, as long as the strength stats are still at level 99. Hansu didn't stay any longer, turned his head to greet the guard soldier, and then continued to go deeper. He muttered to himself, anyway, right now, it's not a big problem. I'll deal with it later. Now let's go to the hunting ground for higher levels. After killing monsters and leveling up, Hansu was very excited. My life is much better than before. After 25 hardships, I finally got to reap the sweet fruits. I used to think that everything would go smoothly. But a few days later, Hansu was stuck, resting his chin on his hands. What the hell is this? He silently looked at the notification in front of him. Notification, you have participated in a murder. The chaos system has been activated. You will be charged with murder. Players can recognize the murderer. The penalty will be applied. Because the chaos system has been activated. Hansu remembered a few days ago, he accidentally got into some trouble, which led to this misunderstanding. I don't know why, some guys suddenly jumped out and attacked me. Maybe because they mistook me for the wanted criminal. Looking at the wanted poster on the wall, Hansu felt annoyed. What's wrong with them? If they have doubts, they should at least find someone who looks a bit similar. Then he thought carefully, but it was definitely not random that they did that. Except for the damn negative 99 luck points, there is no other reason that I can think of. Because of the negative 99 luck points, those people think I'm the wanted criminal. While Hansu was thinking, someone was sneaking up to him. And now, they keep attacking me mercilessly. When the other person pounced, Hansu felt the danger in a hair's breadth, and turned his head to look back. He quickly hooked a strong punch, throwing the other person a few meters away. After hitting that blow, Hansu also knew he didn't go easy. Instinctive reflex? To protect myself, my body automatically reacts. I should have been a little lighter, then he wouldn't have passed out. Chaos is the most cruel thing for the law on Olympus. The chaos system will automatically activate when players commit crimes. And Hansu's system at this time showed, you have killed an NPC. You will enter a state of extreme chaos. And that's how I entered the state of extreme chaos. The penalty for extreme chaos is as follows, the chance of dropping items when killed is 100%. The speed of converging experience decreases by 90%. You have no right to use public services and public agencies. The ability to be liked by NPCs is reduced by 10%. Hansu muttered to himself, and in the end, I had to suffer various punishments. I'm always guilty. Then, not only NPCs, but also other players hunted me down. Hansu ran away and thought, there's only one reason why players hunt me down. A spiky-haired guy chased after him and said, call for backup. That's the serial killer Getrock. Hansu turned pale. According to the hero system, the opposite of the chaos system, you can become a hero if you kill a player with the chaos system. Hansu hid behind a wall and thought to himself, those players who want to become heroes, of course, will target someone with extreme chaos like me. At that moment, the group of people finally found Hansu. They sneered and said, the dead must have given up on life. You better surrender. But Hansu turned to look at them, his eyes flashing. Quickly, inside the ruined walls, there was a loud explosion. Looking at the corpses in front of him, that was Hansu's only choice. To survive, he had killed all those players. He impatiently said to himself, now if I hide in the mountains, they won't find me, right? Anyway, they also helped me level up very fast as time passed. 2 weeks later, Hansu was depressed, sitting alone on a large rock in the forest, not knowing what to think. He suddenly looked up and smiled, anyway, I'm just a normal player, it's boring. He made a decision, now I need to hide for a year, to make the extreme chaos state disappear. I have to endure it. If fate forces me to play the villain, then I'll be a villain, eat well and sleep well. And just like that, I gave up on becoming a hero. At that time, Hansu thought he had level 99, so he didn't have to worry about his livelihood. It was strange, since he was taken by his master, after 20 years of enduring all kinds of hardships, and every time he thought things would get better. But fate intervened, making him fall into an extreme chaos state. Hansu was very annoyed. I'm sure Zeus is the mastermind behind everything. A special scenario or something, there must be some hidden scenes somewhere. Out of the frying pan into the fire. He suddenly started to think about the whole current situation, and the answer came sooner than expected. One night passed. The next day, when Hansu thought he would live peacefully in the forest, a group of people came. As soon as he was about to find a way to deal with them, they suddenly knelt down in front of Hansu. He was very surprised. What is this? An old man in the group cried and said, to be able to see the descendant of the supreme leader, the absolute ruler. This old man can rest in peace. The crowd behind him immediately followed and shouted in unison, "Hooray! Hooray!" Before Hansu's astonishment, a beam of light condensed in front of him, welcomed the supreme leader of the demonic cult. Hansu didn't understand what the hell was going on from the beginning to the end. He unconsciously backed away. What the hell is this? Unexpectedly, the system showed the next message, mission, the return of the SSS level supreme leader. You have to be recognized as the supreme leader of the heavenly demon. The most important thing is to get the recognition of the 12 elders. See details for more information. Hansu was shocked in his heart. What? SSS level mission? Let me explain a little bit for everyone. The SSS level mission in Olympus is the highest level of all the missions that humans have done in more than 200 years. And the number of times the SSS level mission appeared was only 3 times. And after an SSS level mission was executed, it would lead to big changes in Olympus. Usually, the SSS level mission only appeared on the scale of a country. Hansu was a bit surprised. And now I'm the one who got it. He began to recall the past. The training process is like hell for 25 years. In the state of extreme chaos that he accidentally encountered right after leaving Lena. He looked at the people kneeling in front of him. And now there was a bunch of NPCs kneeling in front of him. As if waiting for orders. Hansu smiled. It seemed that he had infiltrated a more grandiose script. The script that Rod had painstakingly prepared for 25 years. Back to this story. During the 7,000 years of chaos, when the war ended, peace returned. And the world was divided into 3 main forces. The most notorious was Sentina. There was an absolute ruler. And his name was Geisai Mentor. He had 14 wives. The 7th wife gave birth to a child named Iadar. He gave birth to a child in a secret territory somewhere. That child gave birth to another one. And so one person gave birth to another. And the person who gave birth to those children was. Reading this, Hansu wanted to widen his eyes. Why is this genealogy so long? This part alone explaining the genealogy took more than 10 minutes to read. Even so, Hansu continued to read the script. That was the important time. Hansu glanced at the people who were still kneeling on the ground. He hesitated. Should he ignore their rudeness? Anyway, they are very respectful now. Back to that script. And the supreme ruler in that era of Sentina. He held all the power in his hands. Sentina had the blood of the demon race. He was stronger and more ruthless than anyone. People said that all the heroes in the world feared facing him. But when the rebellion broke out, Sentina was defeated by a scheme that he could not imagine. But he was only injured, not killed. After that event, Sentina disappeared mysteriously to avoid the opposing forces and to recover his strength. Reading this, Hansu started to connect it with his own situation. So his master was the descendant of that Sentina. Or maybe he was Sentina himself. And the skill that he had learned for 25 years was Sentina's skill. While he was thinking seriously, Hansu noticed the notification board that had just changed. The system showed the return of the absolute ruler of rank SSS. The position of the absolute ruler is temporarily recognized as incomplete. 7 out of 12 elders want the return of the absolute ruler. But because the remaining 5 do not want this, you have to find the loyal elders and get them to acknowledge you as the absolute ruler. Be aware that if you are not recognized as the absolute ruler, you will be in a very difficult situation. Reading those lines, Hansu realized, wait, if I am not recognized as the absolute ruler, then I will be in a difficult situation. And if it continues like this in an extreme situation, it means that I cannot access the cutout. The system continued to show the special benefits. First, the mysterious force that holds the command of the 12 demonic cult elders. Second, the command of the demonic cult force is temporary and will be returned when the mission is completed. Third, 2 elders will be in a friendly relationship with you until the mission is completed. After reading everything, Hansu thought about his next plan, so now I just need to go to Korea? He raised his voice and asked the people who were kneeling on the ground, "Are you the demonic cult elders?" The people nodded their heads vigorously, enthusiastically replied, "Yes, we are. We thank you for recognizing us." Hearing that, Hansu felt uneasy, thinking, how did I recognize them? Demonic cult or whatever, I heard it for the first time. Hansu said to them, "My master told me to lead the demonic cult elders to rebuild the glory of the demonic cult on this continent." The old man with white hair heard that, and was so moved that he burst into tears. The crowd seemed to have a telepathy, and very harmoniously bowed their heads and said in unison, "Forever, forever stand by your side." Thanks to that, Hansu also confirmed at the same time, "I guess these are the 7 elders loyal to me." Not wanting to hesitate any longer, Hansu said in a low voice to everyone, "Let's go, lead the way." The old man with white hair who had cried just now, had changed his face. He answered sternly, "Yes." He also declared coldly, "The subordinate will chop off the heads of those damned insects who dare to oppose us." Hansu immediately turned pale, muttering, "It seems that there are many things to pay attention to at first." The system appeared again, check the relationship between the player and the elder. The elder is now recognized as a member of the clan. The experience that the elders gained in the previous area is transferred to the player. Seeing this message, Hansu was very happy. "That's great." Very quickly the message kept appearing, "Level up, level up, level up." Hansu looked forward to seeing his stats. Am I level 9 now? Normally, a person enters the academy at the age of 6 to 8 and reaches level 20 when they are 20 years old. Hansu was very curious. I wonder who these elders have defeated, but more importantly, he realized, if I use this feature of exchanging experience well, Hansu started asking the old man with white hair, "What is your name?" The old man put his hand on his chest, respectfully answered, "The subordinate is Lucer and is the great elder." Hansu nodded, continued, "First, there is something to do." Lucer said loudly, "Please tell the subordinate, sir." Hansu started talking about his current situation. "I am currently bound by a prohibition. Especially, I followed the words of Master Tynein. In this state, I cannot use any skills of my master. My mind remembers those skills, but my strength cannot perform them." Lucer listened attentively to the story. After a few seconds of silence, he opened his mouth and said, "We subordinates think that." Before he could finish his sentence, Hansu crossed his arms, declaring loudly, "But trust me. I am the absolute ruler of you. And I promise to help you restore the reputation of the demonic cult." The people sitting on the ground showed a respectful face. They shouted, "Lord of our subordinates." The subordinate is always the lord of the subordinate. He looked at the crowd of people who bowed their heads to the ground again, along with the system announcement. The loyalty of the demonic cult elders had increased. Hansu was very pleased. He smiled and went to a planned place. Then, the scene changed very quickly. Inside a luxurious and clean house, Hansu blended in with modern life. He used a glass of water and took water from the hot and cold water dispenser. He drank a sip. Suddenly, there was a voice calling him from the other side, "Hey!" Hansu also stopped drinking water and looked over. He saw a blonde girl who was happily saying, "Clearly, our alliance did a good job this time. But there's a problem with a serial killer, called Getrok, outside Zatinia." This girl was Hansu's sister. Hearing his sister mention his nickname, Hansu faked a smile and looked away. Why did he secretly deny that it was not him? He only saw his sister continue to tell. He seemed to use a pistol and he was at level 40. I heard he could beat 7 people by himself. Moreover, he could leave without any injuries. Someone once said his face was very fierce, threatening people if anyone caught him. I think that person could get 3 million gold, as an incentive. At this point, Hansu couldn't help but interrupt, "Wait a minute. The reward is more than 100 million, but why do they only give an incentive of 3 million? His sister smiled and explained. "That's how the small alliance is. But the alliance has given us a lot of benefits already." Hansu felt a bit unfair for everyone. But they had worked hard. Seeing his brother care about her like that, his sister smiled and promised, "Then if I get the reward, I will treat you to fried chicken." Then, she was a little worried, and came closer to Hansu. She looked at his dark circles clearly. She said, "I think it's because we ate less meat recently." Hansu didn't know how to answer. He thought it was probably because his luck was -99. Anyway, he thanked her. He needed to log in again. As soon as he thought that, Hansu turned around and logged in again. He accessed Olympus, and as soon as he entered, he received a message from Lucer, "Sir, someone is following us. We haven't identified them yet. What should we do now?" Hansu was not too concerned. He texted Sue, "Just wait and see." Then he turned to send a message to Luna CIA, "Is it you?" The system showed a notification, "Luna is on another continent. Players on other continents will not receive your message." Suddenly, someone appeared behind Hansu. Moreover, he cursed at him as soon as he saw him, "I found you. You imposter bastard." Hansu was a bit puzzled, turned his head to look at him, "Imposter?" As soon as he turned around, he saw a guy with 2 pistols in his hands. Remembering his sister's words, Hansu thought, this must be Getrok, the wanted criminal. Getrok glared at Hansu, "A worm like you dares to impersonate me. How brave. Now pay with your death, you lowlife." Hansu thought, how easy, because he had already got his information from CIA. But even if he had a relatively high level, he was already level 40. Seeing Getrok start to pull out his guns, Hansu began to calculate how to shorten the 30-level gap with items and equipment. Now he made up his mind, I can't lose in the most important mission of my life. Hansu thought of a plan in a few seconds. He sneered, "What I do is not fight alone." He just opened his mouth, called out, "Lucer." Lucer immediately jumped down next to him. He bowed respectfully, "Yes, sir. I am your guardian." Getrok was very surprised by the appearance of Lucer. Where did this old man come from? I didn't detect him over here. Hansu quickly issued an order, "Kill him, Lucer." Lucer replied respectfully, "Understood, sir." Getrok didn't know he was facing the protagonist. He didn't care about the two of them, and raised his guns. He thought smugly, but you only have an old man and a worm. He laughed and said, "I don't think you have enough time to say nonsense anymore. If you have time, you should attack me first." At the same time, Lucer stood next to Hanju, dashed and disappeared. Getrock suddenly widened his eyes. What the hell was that? Getrock had just smiled, and immediately got his throat cut like a chicken. Lucer used the speed of lightning, and sent Getrock to the altar to eat bananas, and his face was very calm, as if he really just cut a chicken, without any concern. Seeing this scene, Hansu was also shocked to the point of being stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes, as if it was just an illusion. What the hell was that? Lucer only took 5 seconds to solve Getrock. Hansu began to doubt his life. Wait a minute, wasn't Getrock level 40? Was it because Getrock was weak or Lucer was stronger than he thought? He didn't even see Lucer's movement. If he had the vision skill, he could at least see the flow of his magic. While Hansu was pondering, Lucer quickly brought a bag to him and offered it to Hansu. "It was the high-level equipment of that guy, sir. It seemed to be the stuff you got from the body of the dead slope." The system immediately showed the announcement, "You have received experience points. Check the maximum chaos status. You killed an NPC with a level gap of 30 or more when at level 10 or lower. Check the status of the Heavenly Ice Earth Fire Demon Trap. Congratulations on earning upgrade points." The bag Hansu received from Luxury was the subsidy of Getrock, the notorious serial killer head of Getrock. Choose the reward of 100 million gold. Hansu couldn't believe his eyes. Was he dreaming? He smiled and praised Lucer. "Well done, Lucer." He thought to himself, everything was going right at this moment. He couldn't find any work, he was very chaotic, but he didn't think that an NPC would help him get 100 million gold easily. He immediately ordered, "All elders listen, you have to hunt all the monsters around us, and don't complain. For our glorious comeback, I will follow any script or mission that the system gives, and I will try my best to imitate the king." 2 weeks later, when Hansu was walking alone in the forest, while he was leisurely walking and enjoying the scenery, the old man Lucer was busier, constantly flying around, to be able to guard Hansu. And then what happened. As soon as a fierce bear rushed out, a fierce skull demon, both were quickly dealt by Lucer in a flash, in the blink of an eye. Hansu didn't bother to look and received the level up notification from the system. He looked at this announcement and then silently thought, already level 13, this pace would usually take several years. Breaking the heavenly demon technique required at least reaching level 40, so it could be said that level 40 was where everything really started. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile smugly. An opportunity to earn items by using a bunch of high-level minions, then if he couldn't find work, he could completely create his own opportunity. Hansu was very pleased. After being happy, he was a bit reluctant, looking at the high-level bag of the player Getrock in his hand and wondering, what should I do with this now? Then, he returned to the real world. Right at Hansu's room, he didn't hesitate to go online and ask, where is the best place to sell expensive items? Immediately, there were a few players who enthusiastically answered, "Hansu just sold the game, sir. In Olympus. If you intend to sell valuable items in the real world, you will definitely be robbed and then go sell salt. I have never sold in real life either." Reading this, Hansu fell into deep thought. But, because of his weird chaotic state, he couldn't join any organizations in the game. The money in the game was gold, and he couldn't use it in the real world. His personal information could also be stolen. While he was confused and didn't know what to do, his curious sister stood in front of his room door and asked, "What are you doing?" His savior came. Hansu was excited at the right time. Sister, why are you asking? Do you need to borrow money or something?" Hansu smiled bitterly, waved his hand. No, not that, CIA. What would you do if I gave you Getrock's head?" His sister was puzzled and asked, "What are you talking about?" She didn't believe this much. She laughed out loud, teased him, "If you have it, why would you give it to me? Do you want to sell it and buy a hamburger or something? If you can buy it, buy me one too. Seeing his sister look down on him, Hansu was cold-faced. I'll buy you a lot. Just take that head and claim the reward and split it 5-5 with me. His sister suddenly doubted. Why is he so serious all of a sudden? What is he trying to do? She frowned and said, Brother, do you know what level Getrock is at? Even if you die and come back, you will die again. First of all, I heard that you can't even go to other areas because you have to train or something, right? Hansu was embarrassed and scratched his head. I got out a few days ago. And honestly, I really caught him. His sister still felt that this was unimaginable. She immediately denied, no way. She scoffed and asked, Getrock's level is around 40. How did you beat him? Hansu didn't know how to explain. He could only say vaguely, well, I just fought and beat him. And by the way, my level is around 99. Did you forget the screenshot I sent you? Hearing Hansu say that, his sister suddenly remembered 15 minutes ago. At that time, she was lying on the bed, resting, playing with her phone. Then she received a message from her brother. When she received that message, she still didn't believe that he had reached level 99. He has been very tired lately. This joke was a bit too much. Now, hearing her brother mention it, his sister could only smile embarrassedly. Oh, I thought it was a Photoshop picture back then. There were also many problems. So, I forgot to remember the past. I live like my post-apocalyptic self. Hansu couldn't blame his sister either. That's right. Hansu didn't try to explain more. He just instructed his sister, if you want Getrock's equipment, go to Lentina Mountain in Zetinia. I will send the coordinates after logging in. His sister was very surprised to hear this place, Lentina Mountain. Why do we have to go there? I'm only level 25. Hansu chuckled and told his sister that, well, I'm actually in a chaotic state. Maximum chaos. A while later, at the gate of the road in Lentina Mountain, his sister smiled and said to the soldiers guarding the gate, I have something to do at Lentina Mountain. The soldier frowned and looked at his sister's level, wanting to stop her. What are you going there for? You will be killed by the monsters right away. His sister smiled, it's okay, I will survive. She thought to herself, half believing, half doubting, I still came. The soldiers didn't stop her anymore, shouted, we have warned you. Don't blame us when you die. His sister reluctantly nodded. She thought to herself, I had to think this morning. So it's best that you don't trick me, brother. 3 hours later, his sister was still wandering in the forest, going to the point that her brother had said. Although she didn't encounter any monsters, she was still very alert, looking around, thinking to herself, it's too quiet. He said he had killed all the monsters here. Remembering her brother's appearance yesterday, to be safe, I will kill all the monsters there. Although that was the case, the quiet atmosphere here was not only monsters, but even no living creatures at all. While his sister was thinking seriously, Hansu appeared and patted her shoulder. You're here? His sister was scared, screamed loudly. Hansu felt like his eardrums were pierced. His sister, after realizing that the person who came was her brother, angrily looked at Hansu. What the hell are you doing? You want to scare me to death? At least make some noise. She was very annoyed, it was too much. But suddenly, she saw something strange, only to see that Hansu's body emitted very large streams of energy. His sister was amazed and asked, Brother, what is that energy? Are you crazy? Is your maximum chaos state really true? But, you didn't kill any NPCs at this point, right? Hearing his sister guess correctly, Hansu could only look away, smiling awkwardly. Then, he quickly diverted his sister's attention, opening the system. Anyway, he happily took the bag inside and gave it to his sister. Here, the masterpiece of Getrock. Special condition, 100 million reward. You can exchange it at the reward center. His sister couldn't believe this until now. She asked in astonishment, "Am I dreaming?" She was very touched, taking the bag. 100 million, really? Hansu nodded. I told you already. His sister even opened the bag to confirm. Amazing, it's real. Hansu smiled. Now that you have it, go exchange it. His sister was overjoyed, asking him how he did it. I can't believe it. It's awesome. Hansu saw his sister gaping like that, and hurried her. I know. Go exchange it quickly. His sister quickly took the bag, and went to the exchange area at the reward center. The staff smiled and took it. We have confirmed. This is the masterpiece of the wanted criminal Getrock. The mission to defeat Getrock has been completed. His sister was very excited. It's true. Next, the system announced, 100 million reward has been paid. His sister immediately looked forward to it, drooling. If I take half, I can buy all the hamburgers I like. A series of memories came back. At that time, her brother would come back from training every day, vomiting non-stop. Their mother and she were very worried. Oh God, what should we do with him? Hansu, dear. Their mother guessed. What did he eat at Olympus when he trained? He keeps vomiting like this. Seeing him like that, she couldn't do anything more than just stand and watch. Now, he could earn so much money. His sister felt a bit relieved. He had worked hard enough. Not staying any longer, his sister opened the system, turned on the transfer mode. She took the money bag worth 99 million, and gave it to Hansu. Here's your half. Hansu was a bit surprised, took it, and asked, Huh? Didn't we say to split 100 million gold 5 to 5-10? He didn't expect his sister to be so considerate. She smiled and said, Come on. If this is the first time you earn money, after 25 years of work, how can I take half of it? But, anyway, it's 100 million there. I'll take 1 million as a thank you fee. Seeing his sister refuse his good intention, Hansu reached out to say more. But before he could, his sister quickly ran away from there, waving and saying, I only took the morning off. So I'll log out first. See you at home later. Hansu could only agree. His sister cheerfully added, Today I will treat you to a hamburger. So come down and eat with mom and dad, okay? Seeing his sister so lively, Hansu smiled and said, Be careful on the road. At that moment, he started to calculate his reward, 99 million gold. After converting in taxes, it would be about 80 million won. Thinking about it, Hansu felt ecstatic. He was more excited than ever. 1x80,000,00001. This is definitely the mission of my life. What about the maximum chaos? The SSS level professional mission hasn't started yet, and I'm in a position where I have 80 million in my hand. Once I complete the main mission, I don't know how much more the reward will be. I have to level up to 40 as soon as possible, to do the main mission. Hansu clenched his fist and made a decision, then I have to grow as fast as possible. Cherish every minute and second, invest for the future, it has to be money, right? And so that night, Hansu went to ask his sister to buy him some stuff. His sister had just logged out of the game, and received this annoying request. After a few seconds of not knowing what to say, she couldn't refuse the favor. Ignoring her brother's refusal, she opened the system screen, not forgetting to complain, Brother, I just got off work. Hansu quickly encouraged her, If it's okay, I'll give you 300,000 molds a month, as pocket money. His sister quickly raised it to 500,000 molds. Hansu couldn't do anything but nod, okay. His sister wasn't very happy, and logged back into the game. She felt like she was working overtime. A few hours later, his sister tiredly brought the new items she bought to Hansu. Hansu was happy. The items he asked her to buy were items that helped increase experience. He received 2 small growth rings, a training necklace, 2 development bracelets, 2 development anklets, 2 earrings of experienced desire. When he looked at the total price, it was 70 million gold, 70 million won. Hansu immediately cried without tears, shouting, "For the first time in my life, I earn money by my own labor, and not yet." His sister quickly grabbed Hansu, spread her hands and asked for money. "I don't know, why did you make me buy this pile for you? But, if you intend to make me run around like this, then create a teleport point for me." Hansu smiled awkwardly, asked, "Okay, what do I need to do?" His sister shouted, 3 million gold for the first location, and another 3 million for the next one. Hansu heard this, and turned to stone. Finally, tears flowed, "My money." His sister, after receiving the money, happily reminded her brother, and, turn on the invisible mode of those items. "You look ugly," she said, and quickly logged out. Hansu tried to calm himself, "You'll earn it back later." He opened the system, turned on the stealth mode. Then, he quickly regained his spirit. "Now I have to finish what I need to do first." He ordered in a low voice, "Let's go, elders." The elders, after a second, immediately knelt behind him. "Yes, sir." Hansu decided that the first step was to level up. Soon, it was the next day. He was in a forest somewhere. Looking at the dense wilderness in front of him, Hansu wondered, "Is that Lentina Mountain?" Then, he started to move in. He kept looking around, observing. But he didn't notice someone hiding behind a tree nearby. The redhead, with a cold face, looked at Hansu's bewildered appearance, and wondered, "Who is this idiot?" He saw Hansu's information board, showing a red warning. The redhead was very suspicious. Extreme chaos state? "I didn't expect to see another brown-haired junior here." He approached, asked the captain, "He has an extreme chaos state?" "Perfect, I need some reputation right now." Then, the brown-haired quickly assessed the prey. But he didn't look very weak. His items looked like basic ones too. "How many times did he die on the way here?" The redhead answered coldly, "I don't know. But he definitely hasn't detected us. His vision is different from anyone else. He must be a newbie." The captain quickly made a decision, shouted, "Everyone, prepare for battle." He saw behind the redhead, some more juniors appeared, holding swords and ready to go to Hansu. Meanwhile, Hansu quickly noticed that there were some bandits in the forest. He muttered, "It seems like there are some bandits around here, huh?" At this moment, suddenly, some strange electric sparks appeared on Hansu's body. The system immediately showed up, notifying, "There is an external skill trying to limit the movement of your body." Hansu was puzzled, "What is this?" He cracked his neck, knowing he was about to face an enemy. What limit? On the other side, the man wearing a hooded coat was very surprised to see Hansu. Why didn't the magic trap work on him? "Hey, there!" The redhead nodded, gave his guess. He seems to be a water system player. But his equipment is so shabby. He must have died a lot, so his items fell off. The brown-haired smiled faintly, raised his bow. "Perfectly, I need to eat one more guy, to increase my prestige in the hero system class." The redhead frowned, replied, "Stop talking. Attack him." The bandit leader distracted him, to make sure he couldn't use the transfer skill. "Quap and blink, Assistant Kim and I will approach and attack by surprise." To explain a bit, Quap is a skill that allows the character to switch quickly from one position to another in a very short time. Blink is a skill that allows the character to move short distances quickly and suddenly. When the two underlings rushed from behind Hansu, they suddenly heard him say, "If you give up now, I will consider sparing your worthless lives." The redhead confidently rushed over, yelling in Hansu's face, "How ridiculous!" The redhead slashed a sword at Hansu, shouting, "East attack west." This is a skill that tricks other players into misjudging the situation in a small moment, thereby increasing the chance of winning. But he saw Hansu very calmly ask, "By the way, what level are you?" The redhead was surprised to see his attack blocked by Hansu. He frowned. It bounced back. The redhead quickly jumped out, signaling to the iron armor next to Assistant Kim. Iron armor quickly swung his sword at Hansu, but it was quickly bounced back. He was very surprised. "What is that?" But the redhead didn't give up. He immediately turned to the iron armor and said, "Assistant Kim, join forces with me." Immediately, the redhead and the iron armor attacked Hansu from both sides of the river, but they were blocked by an invisible shield. The brunette frowned, standing on one side with a bow, wondering, strange, his HP hasn't decreased at all. And at the same time, the system also showed, anti-magic arrow ready. Hansu on this side also started to be formidable. The enemy above held a big sword. The boss was probably level 40. Judging by his appearance, he seemed to be almost 30 years old. The brunette was also evaluating Hansu. He was sure that his equipment was very bad, and he didn't see him chanting anything. The brunette was startled. Maybe he had used magic before. He hurriedly shouted to the redhead, "I think this guy wants to play solo PvP. He must have prepared everything." The redhead turned pale. "What?" But for Hansu, he felt their attacks were like itching. If they had given him a chance to stop as if they didn't want to, it was probably his turn to act. Hansu began to tighten his fist, using his energy. Because he couldn't use any abilities, he had to play the role of Satan once. This energy was the basic attack method. The brunette saw such a powerful energy, he immediately warned the commander to be careful. He is preparing to use magic. "I think he will use a huge amount of magic. So before the anti-magic arrow is fired, please back off." But Hansu wouldn't let the redhead run away like that. As soon as the brunette finished speaking, a powerful punch hit the redhead's stomach. The brunette screamed in horror, "Commander!" But the redhead couldn't believe his eyes. "What the hell?" The system warned Hansu in front of him, "You are still in a state of chaos. Your killer score has increased, your crime is worse." Seeing the redhead killed, the iron armor furiously rushed towards Hansu. "You bastard!" He saw a punch hit the iron armor's face. The system warned Hansu again, "You are still in a state of chaos. Your iron score is higher, your crime is heavier." But after killing the two people, Hansu was also very surprised by his own strength. "Wow, one punch and they're dead. I thought they could at least withstand a blow like Toyo." The brown-haired one was astonished, dropping his bow and arrow. "I didn't even have time to support you." "Commander, what should we do now?" The armored one was about to send a message, "Run. This guy is a monster." The red-haired one also sent an order to run. "I won't take any responsibility. Just run fast." The brown-haired one quickly turned around, telling his subordinates, "Retreat." He cursed inwardly, "Damn, we messed with the wrong person. This guy is no longer a normal mage." Who would have thought that, when the brown-haired one was running away in panic, Hansu had already stood behind him, patting his shoulder. The brown-haired one's face turned pale, glancing at Hansu. "When did he get here?" Hansu smiled grimly, asking, "You wanted to fight, right? Why are you running now? Where's the justice?" The brown-haired one was so scared that he almost wet his pants. This ability to move, it turns out that he didn't use his teleportation skill at all, he was just playing with us. According to what the brown-haired one knew, there was only one person who could do this. He was the highest level close combat mage, with a level above 60. The hunter who made the players tremble. Very quickly, after dealing with the remaining subordinates, Hansu happily watched his stats increase, level 16 now. The system continued to display a new message: "You have shown a strong desire to not forgive those who harm your dignity. The loyalty of your subordinates has increased. You have met the minimum condition. The passive state charisma has been activated. Charisma is the charisma that makes others trust you." Reading this, Hansu was very excited. Passive state charisma? I don't know what it is, but it sounds good. When Hansu was focusing on reading the message, Lucer suddenly appeared behind him, leader. Hansu also turned around. Lucer, is that you? He saw Lucer's serious face saying, there is something you need to see for yourself. Can I lead the way for you, leader? Hansu didn't know what it was, but seeing Lucer so serious, it must be something very important. He couldn't ignore it. Like that, the scene changed to a quiet, secluded, mountain forest, called the hiding place of the demonic cult. Hansu followed Lucer for a while and finally arrived here. It seemed like it was not a moment, looking at Hansu's gaunt face now and his inner voice. I have been walking for a whole week, walking for 7 days and 7 nights. Hansu was very doubtful. Why is the hiding place so far away? Looking at Lucer, Hansu recalled. This old man suddenly wanted to take me with him, but then he opened a gate in the middle of the desert, blocking me and saying something about her adventure house, right? Although I was quite happy, because I got points after walking, but since we have been walking for a week, there are no monsters around. And we just kept walking for a week, with a stomach full of water. I can bear it because my stats are at level 99, but anyway, it's almost beyond endurance. While Hansu was feeling dissatisfied, an elder stepped forward to report, Sir Leader, I see a village. Hansu was overjoyed. Really? Finally arrived, finally got to eat. And then he followed the elders, to a very desolate village. This village, Sir Leader? Hansu looked at the gloomy village in front of him. The dream of eating was also very quickly gone. He asked Lucer wearily, are you sure? Lucer nodded affirmatively, yes. Hansu's face was full of despair. Why do I have a bad feeling about it? It's like my master also caused a lot of trouble here. Very quickly, the villagers with pale faces, starving and sleepless, came to greet everyone. The Supreme Leader has arrived, our Savior has arrived. It's really him. Please bow respectfully before our Savior. At the same time, the system showed a new mission, side mission, rebuild the activated village. Hansu smiled bitterly, I still haven't eaten anything yet. While everyone was kneeling before Hansu, another person came out from the village. HT, the old man with a full beard, old and decrepit, bowed his head. You have arrived, Sir Supreme Leader. This old man is the Prophet Karo, 163 years old. After that, everyone quickly dispersed to their homes. Hansu was invited to the elder's house, listening to him tell the situation of the village over the years. After hearing everything, Hansu said in summary, you have nurtured 12 elders here, and have avoided the Empire's sight for a long time. And the 12 elders have always been looking for the successor of the Supreme Leader. And this time there is no monster, not even animals, and no fields either. You have always been waiting for me in poverty? Karo bowed his head and confirmed, yes, that's right, sir. Hansu looked at the hunger and misery here, very curious, and asked, why don't you get food from the outside areas? Karo shook his head and said, that is impossible. There is no villager, not even the 12 elders, who can get any food from the outside. Hansu began to speculate about the side mission this time, so, the first thing I have to do is to protect the villagers from starvation, right? After thinking, Hansu quietly called Lucer. Lucer immediately appeared, kneeling at the door, yes, sir. Hansu didn't beat around the bush and asked a direct question, without me, how long can these people survive? Lucer struggled to tell the truth, sir, about 2 more weeks. Hansu heard this and couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately stood up. He walked out of the house, not knowing what he was planning to do. At this time, Hansu went to the highest rock in the village. He shouted to everyone, listen, I know you are suffering from hunger and hardship. But meanwhile, I have been training, and I can't take care of you. But now it's different. I'm sure I'll do everything to save you, no matter what the price is. 2 weeks is enough. Please try to wait a little longer. The villagers were touched by his words. Some even cried with joy. Hansu was pleased to see the new notification system. The aura of the NPC demonic cult has improved. Their loyalty has increased. Hansu didn't hesitate any longer. He quickly turned to Lucer and ordered, "Follow me. If we go together, it will be faster. So the others should stay here and protect the villagers." Lucer and the elders bowed. "Yes, leader." They left the village gate. Hansu turned to Lucer and said, "We have to hurry. When we go out, kill the monsters and pick up all the items they drop." Lucer nodded. "Yes, I understand." Hansu was in a good mood and moved forward. This task was too easy to complete. A week later, when Hansu and Lucer arrived, this place was Mount Legnia. They didn't know what happened, but Lucer was very excited and looked at Hansu. "Sir, you really did it in time." Hansu looked like nothing big had happened and replied, "Of course." Hansu sat on a rock and looked at the bags of different sizes in front of him. He said in a low voice, "We have prepared the easiest items first. But from now on, let's start with the smaller items." This had to be told a few days ago. While CIA's sister was walking on the street, she suddenly received a new message. She didn't know who sent it. As she expected, it was a message from her brother. "CIA, help me." The sister asked, "What is it?" Hansu sent a message, "Send me the magic bag with 800 portions of porridge. Send it to Mount Lepnia like last time." The sister was very suspicious. "What? Porridge for 800 people?" Hansu successfully executed his plan. He had prepared food in advance through the car. Although his sister was very curious, "Bro, what are you going to do with this?" But Hansu quickly gave her a bag. "Here, your money." The sister opened the bag and saw some gems inside. She was very surprised. "Lanbao Thatch? Did you get sponsored or something? How did you get such a valuable thing?" Hansu didn't know how to explain. It's not from Phi." He forced a smile and asked, "If you get 10%, can you help me sell it?" The naive girl walked away with the bag of jewels. "Who have you met recently?" Seeing that, Hansu waved his hand and instructed, "Remember to buy me 3 teleportation gates on your way home." And so, by selling the gemstones that Lucer had hunted, and buying 3 more teleportation gates, and setting up the teleportation points for them, he went from Mount Legnia to the hideout of the demonic cult, then to the demonic cult village. The walking time to the village was reduced a lot compared to the estimate. Hansu was very satisfied with his plan. Awesome. Buying 3 teleportation gates was very expensive, but anyway the scenery changed very quickly. At this time, in a small quiet tent in the village, an old man was in deep thought. The demonic cult had been neglected to the point that we had to suffer. This old man was the 12th elder, Aina. Aina was dissatisfied and said loudly, "And now you want us to follow you, just because you are the successor?" "I will follow the Supreme Elder Lucer without any hesitation. But not every elder thinks the same way. If you deliberately harm the villagers, or lie, I will." While Aina was very angry, outside suddenly there were continuous shouts, "The absolute ruler has returned." He came back with a lot of items. Aina couldn't help it, lifted the curtain and went out of the tent and asked, "Why are you making so much noise?" Only to see outside, the villagers who had been starving for a long time, there appeared a lot of canned food, which could be said to be piled up like a mountain. And Hansu was standing in front of the mountain of food. He smiled happily and said to everyone, "Here is your food." I really wanted to bring milk and honey, but such fatty and sugary items, when you are too hungry, are very easy to cause stomach ache. So, eat these things first. Aina had just doubted Hansu's strength, so he was very surprised. How did he get so much food? The villagers below were overjoyed to tears. "Food, it's been a long time since I had rice again." Everyone shouted in unison, "The absolute ruler, cheers." Nothing is impossible for the absolute ruler. And then, the system showed a message in front of Hansu: your relationship with the villagers has increased. The loyalty of your subordinates has increased. Hansu was secretly happy, that's right. Then, he turned to Karo and said, Elder, please distribute the porridge to everyone with Lucer. Karo bowed respectfully and replied, yes, sir. After assigning everything, Hansu put his hand on his head and left. I will go inside, you stay and take care of it. The two elders bowed, yes, sir. Hansu entered the tent and started thinking. The next step, I had solved the problems of food, clothing and shelter, but now I will focus on food and medicine. As he was taking off his coat, outside suddenly a voice rang out, Sir, can your subordinate come in? Hansu didn't know who it was, but he also agreed. Ida came in with a gaunt face, and said to him. Hansu was a little surprised. The 12th elder Aina, who would have thought that as soon as he entered, Ida immediately knelt down on the ground, and said loudly, please forgive your subordinate's disloyalty. Immediately the system congratulated you for being recognized by the 12th elder Aina. Hansu was still a bit surprised. That's easy? Ida was moved to tears, and said, you are the savior of us subordinates, but your subordinates still dared to doubt you. Hansu thought to himself that he had quit this mission, and it would take some time, but he didn't expect to go so far. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile happily. Hansu was very satisfied looking at Aina, and thinking of the progress of the mission, his eyes flashed a good sign. Hansu cheerfully walked over, patted Aina's shoulder and called his name. Aina was a bit surprised, when Hansu didn't have any intention of blaming him, and quickly looked up and said, Hansu very frankly admitted, I still have many shortcomings, and my abilities are still limited. I understand why you don't trust me, I also feel that way. But now that we are here, you said you will trust me, so I will not disappoint your trust, Aina. Seeing the dazzling light, like the light of the party radiating from Hansu, Aina was very moved, and said, please forgive me for this unfaithfulness. The system simultaneously displayed a notification. The 12th elder Aina has completely recognized you as their savior. The relationship will decrease if the trust decreases. Seeing Aina respectfully calling him pity, after his deep performance, Hansu secretly felt pleased. He is really a simple fool, yes. I have reached level 19 and also have some new breakthroughs. Should I go there to check my stats? Lucer said that any action would attract the attention of the Empire, and the other elders too. And if I want someone to follow me, Aina would be the best choice, because he is good at spying and fighting. Just like that, the next day at Legnir Mountain, a ferocious bear bared its teeth, attacking Hansu and Aina. Hansu didn't show any panic on his face, and casually asked, I have never seen a bear before, is it called a giant bear? Aina hurried forward, and asked, let me kill it. Hansu coldly said, no, I will do it. He began to evaluate the bear in front of him. Giant bear, somewhere around level 40, usually use a group of 5 to 6 people to kill a giant bear. Like that, but I can defeat it by myself. The bear scanned its eyes, looking for Hansu's position. Then, it quickly found out, and threw itself at where he was standing. Hansu reacted swiftly, jumped into the air. The bear lost him again, and searched with its eyes. Hansu sneered, jumped down from the air, and attacked the bear. He confirmed, this kid is a piece of cake for me. Immediately, the bear received a punch from the sky. And so, the giant bear died, clueless about who killed it. The system quickly showed a message, you have defeated the giant bear. You received 20,000 gold. Experience points have been added. Items, equipment of yours. Aina stood next to him and praised, you are really talented. Hansuwood was a bit surprised, I thought I could handle it in one punch. Why is it so weak? He secretly thought, I don't know if it's because this one is weak or I'm strong. But one thing is clear, I'm more confident now. After dealing with the bear, Hansuwood turned his head and called, let's go, Aina. I've thought of the time when we enter the adamantium dungeon. Aina immediately bowed and said yes to him, and so, the two of them went to the dungeon together. A few days later, they stood in front of a magic gate. That was the entrance to the adamantium dungeon. Aina looked at the cave in front of him with a serious face and warned, "We're here." Aina next to him immediately gave a warning, "Subordinate, I feel many entities inside the dungeon." Hanzu would seem to have predicted this, and answered with a serious face, "Of course. This is the Amantium dungeon, the beginning of the village. A new dungeon is near. This place has a high difficulty level. Therefore, you can get experience points when you clear the dungeon. The students at the academy and the guides from the Great Alliance have come here." Hanzu would confidently smiled faintly. "I defeated the giant bear with just one punch. I wonder, what is the strength of the guides from the Great Alliance?" Thinking of this, he started walking towards the magic gate. "Let's go in, Aina. Follow me now." With the stealth ability of the origin, Aina bowed and said yes to him. At the same time, inside the cave, a bunch of academy students went into the dungeon together, the safe area. On the way, there were two students who were also very friendly and chatted with each other. "Hey buddy, this is my second time, but I'm still worried." "Me too." Then, one of the two looked very worried, but still seriously told the other, "I hope, this time we can complete this dungeon." Who would have thought, as soon as he finished, the two were shocked, when they saw Hanzu would silently in front of them. Not only that, his whole body was wrapped in a very scary aura. The two students were scared and shouted, "Is that the chaotic aura?" Then quickly tell the guide. "Teacher guide, there is a great chaotic person here. Teacher guide, please come here quickly." The guide heard his student say, immediately stood up his hair. Scared and incredulous, he shouted back, "You said great chaotic? Who is this bastard who doesn't know fear?" On this side, Hansu was silent, remembering when he hunted monsters alone. While leveling up, he discovered that they would not drop any items when he was the one who killed them. Thinking of that, Hansu did not hesitate to order the system window open up to see how it was. He muttered to himself and started researching, then he had a headache and found out, the drop rate also decreased. "I have negative 99 luck, that's too bad." Hansu painfully thought to himself, "I wish those elders could deal the final blow, so I could enjoy the experience." But then, all of them only needed one hit, and the monsters were dead. Suddenly, while he was lost in thought, someone shouted and made Hansu wake up, "Hey, you there, what are you doing here?" The guide slowly approached Hansu, and asked cautiously. At this time, Hansu came to his senses, remembering that CIA had warned him about this. So, he was quite looking forward to it, but they chose to fight literally. "I asked you what you were doing here?" The guide repeated again with Hansu, along with a tone that was not very friendly. Hansu was not easy either. He raised his hand to scratch his ear, then he coldly said, with a challenging tone, "Too small," Hansu said. Hearing that, the guide did not bother to ask why he came here anymore. He just lightly said a lot as if he wanted to show off, "I have seen many people like you. If you leave right now, I will spare your life." The guide said this confidently, because he had also secretly studied Hansu. He used his eyes to scan through once, and he could conclude that, from what I can see, he is level 19 and has no items. He is trash, he can't even resist. He is the type who kills other players, just to pick up the items they drop and sell them. It seems that he has the maximum chaotic effect, which means I can get the hero title if I kill him. Thinking of that, the guide showed a bit of respect, sneered with a disdainful tone, and coldly said to Hansu, "A trashy incompetent like you, wants to target my students?" Hansu heard that and couldn't keep up, digesting the guide's way of thinking. He showed his stupid face, and then asked back in confusion, "What?" After asking, Hansu also digested what was going on. So, he waved his hand, showed that he didn't mind, and said to the guide, since there are students here, let's let this matter pass peacefully. Don't worry about me, do your job, teacher. I'm just here to clean up this dungeon. However, no matter how friendly he was, the guide did not bother to pay attention to him. He snapped back at Hansu, do you think I will believe the words of a trash like you? I already know your scheme. As soon as the guide said this, everyone heard the announcement that the system announced, the safe area of the Amanium dungeon will soon be erased. Immediately, the guide turned around and instructed his students, don't worry, stand behind me. These 6 words made the students admire the guide even more. He was really a great guide from the association. Really? He came from the association? The students chatted with each other. On this side, Hansu heard the countdown from the system and was also a bit worried. So, once again, he tried to be friendly and wanted to make peace. Hey, guide, if you don't choose to fight, I won't start a war either. I'm sure I said it before, I will leave after completing this dungeon. And although he said that out loud, Hansu also had some calculations in his mind. He guessed that today, he would know how strong the people from the Great Alliance were. And as Hansu predicted, the guide did not want to let him go. So, even though the system was counting down to 2, the guide still drew his sword, and did not forget to mock Hansu, that's just a trick of the losers. When the guide had just finished saying this, it was also the time when the countdown clock reached 2. Hansu was also helpless, and could only try to explain again, I don't have any plans to harm your students. I will leave after completing the dungeon. And as soon as Hansu finished his sentence, the system also finished counting down. The system mechanically announced, due to the presence of a person with extreme chaos, the safe area of the Amanium dungeon will be disabled. And right at this moment, the guide also ran out of patience, drew his sword, and rushed straight towards Hansu with a warning. You arrogant bastard, don't think you can fool me. And at this point, Hansu still wanted to advise him kindly. I warned you that I won't bother you if you don't bother me. I warn you for the last time. However, no matter what Hansu said, he could not move the guide. He still had a sword, and stabbed straight at Hansu. But when he touched Hansu, he realized that he was hard as a rock, and he couldn't get through. The guide was so helpless, that he couldn't do anything, except gritting his teeth and cursing him, you bastard. Hansu, although very kind, but being pushed to the end of the road like that, he couldn't be nice anymore. He silently praised the guide. It seems that you have at least one unique skill. But is that all? Hansu looked up with a sarcastic look, and asked the guide. At this point, the guide was furious and realized that, this bastard, he was not a weak new player, and he had something strange about him. Then, after a while of stabbing but useless, the guide finally gave up and pulled his sword back, still angrily swearing, damn it. Then he shouted to his people for support, there's a person with extreme chaos here, level 19. He said, and then felt a bit wrong, unlike his level, he has a strange skill. He is very dangerous. On this side, Hansu also did not stand still anymore. He raised his fist and said, I told you, I will quietly finish this dungeon and leave. I told you not to bother me. I warned you that was the last time. Hansu shouted, as he threw his fist towards the guide's sword that was slashing at him. The two collided, creating a huge impact. The guide looked at Hansu's hand and yelled, you bastard. He was secretly scared, damn, he is blocking the sword with his bare hand. I need to call for backup. The guide had just thought of that, when suddenly, the power that burst out from Hansu caused another explosion, making him unable to react. And not only him, but all the trainees within a 5-meter radius were also blown away by that force. In the chaotic scene, everyone screamed in fear, what is going on? Then, after the aftershock, there was a blinding light, making everyone unable to see anything. Everyone was afraid and covered their faces and closed their eyes. No one dared to make a sound. A while later, after all the danger had subsided, the trainees looked at Hansu walking back, getting closer. They all whispered to each other in fear, "Hey, are you okay? What do we do now?" The guide was defeated. I think some trainees were also caught there. "Hey, the ultimate troublemaker is coming, what should we do?" Seeing the trainees in a mess, with fearful eyes, Hansu put on a grim face and asked, "Do you also want to fight me?" The crowd shook their heads together. They were all scared and did not dare to look straight into Hansu's eyes. Until they heard him praise them, "Good." Then they stopped shaking their heads and looked at Hansu nervously. They saw him coldly walk away. Before leaving, he did not forget to wave his hand and tell them, "Work hard on your tasks. I'm sure you will become great people." And so, they did nothing but wait for Hansu to leave. After he disappeared, they sighed and said to each other, "He's gone. Quickly contact the guide." And then, a while later, Hansu was still walking slowly in the dungeon, and annoyed by what had happened earlier. He did not even intend to harm the trainees. And while he was angry, he suddenly saw something in front of his eyes. He quickly looked at it carefully a few times, then took a breath. That was it. The defense fortress, located in the middle of the dungeon, and in front of it were the skeleton soldiers. Looking at this fortress, Hansu could not help but smile cunningly and ask himself, "The guidebook said that I have to do it. Destroy that fortress, before I can complete the final task at the end of this dungeon, right?" Then he did not hesitate and walked towards the door of the fortress. Hansu was bored because he thought, "Anyway, killing monsters, I would not get any items. Let's destroy this fortress quickly." Hansu had just thought of that, then quickly attacked, and flew up in the air, leaving the angry skeleton soldiers behind. They were ready to fight Hansu. But in the blink of an eye, he flew away. The defense fortress was also very agile, as if someone was controlling it. Hansu had just flown up, and it quickly loaded the bullets. The system also quickly announced, "The defense fortress is attacking the player. The monsters are angry. We advise you to form a group, after you get out of the range of the defense fortress." Despite the warnings that sounded dangerous, Hansu was very excited, putting all his strength into his fist and muttered, "I think 10 punches or more are enough to destroy it." And then, Hansu counted along with his action, he threw his punch into the middle of the fortress. As soon as the force of the punch touched the fortress, it caused a deep crack, spreading to the other parts of the fortress. Then slowly, the cracks spread more and more, until there was no place to spread anymore. The whole fortress collapsed in front of Hansu in an instant, making him also startled, hard to believe. Wondering if it was just one punch? Then Hansu did not take too much time to calm down. He turned and ran away, happily wondering, but why is a defense fortress so easy to break? Is this really a defense fortress? Well, anyway, this is also good for me. Let's finish the dungeon quickly. Hansu was so excited that he ran like a dog chasing him. Even the skeleton soldiers could only stand helplessly, watching the smoke, and could not catch up with Hansu. A while later, when the guide group of the academy finally found the ruins of the defense fortress, everyone was shocked, when they heard someone in the group point to the ruins and shout, "Look over there." They were so surprised that they did not understand how this could happen. Everyone looked worried, discussing with each other. The defense fortress has stopped working. Isn't he a level 19 player? I don't understand. How did he finish it so fast? Maybe he used some item or drug to increase his strength. As soon as they finished speaking, they heard the system announce, "System activated. Congratulations, the adamantium dungeon has been completed. The breakthrough point will be considered as a reward for clearing the adamantium dungeon." Making everyone unable to believe their ears. They all shouted in unison, "Really? No way!" On this side, the dry bones kept attacking the invisible shield from behind Hansu. And he seemed very indifferent, wondering, why are there so many skeletons here? It will be quite difficult for a level 19 player like me to wipe them out. Looking at the giant gem in front of him, he concluded, so this is the final stage of the dungeon, right? Without hesitating any more, Hansu started to step out, ready to pose. He clenched his teeth, rushed forward, then let's see, if the final stage is worthy of its name? Let's test it. With the experience of breaking the fortress last time, Hansu smiled faintly, muttering, don't tell me it will break with just one punch? And then, boom, a thunderous punch hit the shield outside the gem, creating a very large explosion. And as Hansu had predicted earlier, the system showed up, the shield of the final stage no longer exists. Hansu looked contemptuously at the broken shield in front of him, so this shield is completely broken, right? Is this stupid shield so weak? He could not help but mock. After the stage, Hansu also knew and told himself, the other guides are still chasing behind me, so let's finish quickly. He said he backed away to take a run, and rushed straight to attack the final gem. Finally, indeed, the system once again showed up. Congratulations, the Emacium dungeon has been cleared. The breakthrough point will be considered as a reward for clearing the Emacium dungeon. Hansu smiled bitterly, that's why it's only a low-level dungeon. Did I clear it with just one try? Now let's use the points I got. He pressed a button on the system screen, and quickly received the system feedback, a breakthrough point has been used. You have reached level 20. Hansu was happy. Now I can go to the dark domain. At this time, after cleaning up the dungeon, Hansu looked around curiously, but I thought, the guides would come as if they didn't see anyone. Or are they waiting at the entrance of the dungeon for me? He wondered, asking himself. Then he quickly opened the system to confirm and muttered, that's even better. Then he was curious how many people would be there. He thought he could punch 5 people at a time. He hoped that among those players there would be someone who set level 50. Very quickly, Hansu arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. Looking at the cold people, with a face like they had just been cheated, standing outside waiting for him, he was a bit surprised. 7 people, more than I expected, Hansu muttered with interest. The female guide leading the group was also very aggressive. As soon as she saw Hansu's face clearly, she didn't bother to greet him, and shouted loudly at him, the leader of the enemy faction, listen up. Hearing the female guide's momentum, Hansu was also a bit startled. But looking around, he didn't see anyone standing next to him. So he couldn't help but ask stupidly, enemy faction? Is there anyone here besides me? Aina, are you out of stealth? No, Aina answered honestly, without understanding anything. On this side, the female guide scolded Hansu and then guessed, if a battle breaks out, he will target the students first. So she took all her momentum and said, I know your purpose. I hope there won't be a meaningless fight here. Then she secretly determined in her heart that she should stop it as much as possible. On this side, Hansu heard the female guide say that, and also felt a bit unbelievable. Huh? I plan to have a fight. They let me go after them. And the female guide was motionless because she was worried about the big event. If we fight again here, some students will die. I never liked useless students like this. So she thought, to make everything complete, she could only negotiate with Hansu. I will let you go. Maybe you don't want to die meaninglessly, do you? On this side, Hansu was not the type who liked to fight. As soon as she said that, he raised his hand to his ear, pretending that he didn't care much and replied, I understand. I don't intend to fight right now either. I'm sure I told him before, don't bother me. After explaining, he didn't bother to linger any longer, just walked past the group of students, with only one thought, now going to the dark domain is my priority. I'll fight them later. After seeing Hansu's back disappear, one of the guides dared to call the female guide's name, Guide Jiga. Then she answered, and the other person sincerely continued, thanks to your help, we have overcome this threat without any injuries. You're welcome. Chiga coldly replied. Then, she reminded everyone, we must not forget, the guide who led Lewis and the innocent students has died. When that man entered the dungeon, he deliberately approached them. After saying that, she ordered the other guides, hurry up and clean this place. It seems that there is some mysterious force helping him on these roads. Chiga voiced her guess in her heart, he knows that we have many students to protect. We need to lure him out. Let's go back to the start of the dungeon. Then, Chiga looked at the person next to her and affirmed firmly, I'm sure that mysterious force is somewhere here. If I fight with him, he will surely target the students first. Hearing that, the guide next to her couldn't help but ask, who is that bastard? This question made Chiga hesitate a bit, then she said helplessly, I don't know. That dark magic, I'm sure he is super chaotic. But the only one who can beat me is Zufrdi. Isn't Zufrdi level 50? Maybe he faked his level. The two of them walked and wondered about the identity of Hansu. As soon as they mentioned the name Zufrdi, he had just used Deathclaw and killed 2 more players. So, before logging out, the 2 players kept cursing him, you better be careful. Ink is also chasing you. Do you know? That super chaotic bastard, I will surely kill you one day. However, Zufrdi, the super chaotic player, didn't care. He smiled at their faces and said, if you are dead, then log out. I will use these dropped items well. After saying that, he bent down to pick up the items, and couldn't help laughing happily because of his joy. These items must be profitable. Then, after he had collected all the items, he had some free time to think, I have never contacted Ink before. Why are they targeting me? There are also many comments, these days they say they have seen me everywhere. Is there a super chaotic impersonating me? I also heard that he was very prominent in the Emacium dungeon not long ago. If I do something wrong, the guild will chase me, right? Zufrdi walked and wondered a lot and then he fell silent. Even so, I don't want to mess with them. So thinking of this, Zufrdi couldn't help it anymore, and suddenly decided that before it became the first trouble, I should catch that bastard and hand him over, right? On this side, at the demonic cult village, Hansu had arrived early to meet the elders. Discuss the next journey. After the elders were all present, he informed them that we should go to a place with a large number of monsters at this time. Among you, is there an elder who specializes in long-range magic? Bluiz and Aina both didn't dare to stand up. Both of them were silent and didn't say anything. A while later, they whispered to each other that if it was about long-range magic, the most capable person. Then, while the two of them hadn't finished their words, one of the elders confidently stepped forward and volunteered, claiming to be a master of long-range magic. Wow, Hansu exclaimed happily. Then, he also shouted without hesitation, let's go right away. Yes, sir, the elder who just volunteered also gladly agreed with him. On the way, Hansu suddenly thought, it seems like it's CIA's birthday soon. Standing in front of the dark domain, he still wondered to himself, should I fulfill my responsibility as a brother? I will work hard to eliminate them. Later, I can buy a birthday gift for CIA and a house too. Then, not only Hansu was here, but there were also many other players who were gathering here. They also had a face full of excitement, ready to enter the mission. At this moment, the system also announced, the monsters will continue to revive. Oh, it will start soon. Hansu was very excited after hearing this announcement. Then he turned his head and asked the elder who followed him. Zeta, are you ready? Yes, sir, Zeta answered quickly. The sixth elder, Zeta, seemed even more excited than Hansu. The old man kept waving his arms and legs, saying, I will always follow your orders, cut their bones, skin them, sir. I will burn all the rubbish that blocks your way with the hellfire. I will chop off their limbs. Hansu listened to this enthusiastic speech. he felt a bit helpless. He could only lightly reply, "Okay." Then he thought to himself, what's wrong with him? He looks scary. But he didn't care much because he thought that this was our plan. We will kill all the players who come near. While Hansu was silently planning, the other players were also constantly talking about him. Isn't that the super chaos over there? Then the other players didn't know their strength and calculated with each other. Should we find some fame? Good idea. Before the high-level players arrive, go catch all the monsters and take the blue gems. Everyone looked at Hansu with a hostile eye and plotted with each other. Before the bastard gets him, we need to catch him first. On this side, Hansu also guessed that he would be targeted by the other players. He just quietly observed and said to Zeta, "I will go further if I move." "ZA, do you understand why I brought you here? Because you know how to use long-range magic, right? Show me." Hansu gave an order to Hoda with excitement, and he was naturally no less enthusiastic. He stepped out with a pair of dead eyes, looked at the other players and respectfully said to Hansu, "Yes, sir. I will not disappoint you. Your future will be bright." Zeta said and raised his hands to the sky, as if he was doing some magic. Then he shouted after a while of casting and called for a huge stream of power from the sky. "Evil God descends." Zeta shouted and made a demon appear from the sky. He was very excited to let the brutal demon go out. "Destroy those who are in the way, our master." Then right after the demon descended with a devilish face and horns like a buffalo, all the other players panicked, ran away in chaos. Everyone was scared and screamed, "What is that?" As for Elder Zeta, the more he heard the screams, the more excited he became. He ordered the buffalo horn demon, "Kill them all." Hansu looked at this scene and couldn't help but praise, "Amazing. I also want to use my skill." Then he threw a punch. At this moment, the system also announced, "Your killer index is increasing. Your crime has become clearer." The system told Hansu that your charisma is spreading across the continent. You are promoted as a holy killer. If a player connects to the chaotic network, he can increase his hatred beyond the current estimate. He will receive a bloodthirsty trait when PvP. The hero title weakens the defense and attack abilities of the player. With the bloodthirsty trait, in addition, the player with the bloodthirsty trait becomes less resistant to the holy skills. About death. Resurrection time increases to 240 hours and equipment durability reduction rate increases to 100%. All types of penalties are enforced. However, for me, the leader of the demonic cult, Hansu, was puzzled. "I don't understand why it keeps increasing, but it will be fine." Right, at this time the system showed up, "Your attraction is increasing, the loyalty of the demonic cult is increasing." A player attacked by Zeta angrily cursed, "Bastard. Are you looking down on us? Who do you think I am?" Hansu acted like he didn't hear those words. He calmly instructed Zeta, "I'll check later, but first, clean up this area." Then, there were the screams of the other players, "Call the attendant quickly. The commander of the Holy Alliance is Tao's friend, bastard." "Is that so?" After making them shut up, Zeta smiled quite cleanly then. Hansu looked at the group of monsters coming from afar, and reminded Zeta, "The monsters are here." The system warned that the black bull was appearing. At this time, a mad cow was rushing towards the two. Hansu quickly distributed Zeta, "Can you handle it?" Zeta excitedly replied, "I will skin them." Seeing Zeta confident like that, Hansu also reassured and answered, "Okay." The two of you quickly rushed to the mad cows, "Kill them." Hansu happily watched the pile of money running back and forth in front of him. He restrained his fist, just making sure they didn't die after one hit. Bing! A punch hit the face of the unlucky buffalo. A system immediately announced, "You have hunted the black bull, you get 18,000 gold." Hansu's face was very disappointed. "I had hoped, but it only took one hit, and it was dead." Looking at Zeta, Hansu also felt much lighter. He reassured himself that he couldn't do anything, but the equipment would fall from the monsters killed by Zeta, and at least he still got gold. Just work hard and earn gold. Then there was the scene of two people in the air, furiously punching the faces of the mad buffaloes. The other players hid on one side, gaping at the sight. Is that crazy guy attacking automatically? The red-clothed man frowned incredulously. Next to the swordsman, the mage was definitely close combat oriented. Looking at the damage, he was sure to specialize in attack. The mushroom-headed man next to him asked, "Is that a mage? When we attacked together before, he didn't do anything." The red-haired man with a tense face answered lightly that he was at least level 50. On this side, Zeta sneered and jumped into the air, saying to the buffaloes, "Victory belongs to the supreme will." He shouted the infinite thunder god spell. Immediately, the sword in his hand gathered countless lightning bolts, slashing once. A very fast thunderstorm occurred, lighting up a whole sky. Seeing the fierce scene, Hansu widened his eyes. Too much. As usual, the system showed the message, "You have leveled up." Hansu happily instructed Zeta, while recovering his skills. "You collect the blue gems," Zeta immediately agreed. "I will follow your orders, sir." A while later, Hansu held 2 bags in his hand. The system showed the message, "Blue gems obtained 7. Hansu smiled. Ordinary players would never imagine this speed. Suddenly, the system had another message, "The boss monster has appeared." At that time, Hansu was talking to Zeta, "Maybe we should pack up and run." After receiving the message, he was very surprised. He stopped. "Huh, the boss. Now?" And the 2 people who were hiding also saw something that had just appeared. They immediately widened their eyes. "What is that?" "Surely it's the Black Buffalo King." At the same time, the Buffalo Boss also appeared clearly in front of everyone. It had legs as big as pillars, and a mouth full of ugly teeth. When they saw the huge figure, everyone was amazed. "It's the Black Buffalo King." The system also showed its name, the Black Buffalo King Boss Monster. Seeing the giant buffalo leading the herd rushing over, Hansu was very eager. "This is the first time I see it. Zeta takes care of the potato groups up there. Get the blue gems too." Zeta quickly nodded and answered, "Yes, I understand." Hansu sneered and said, "Looking closely, it seems stronger than the ordinary Black Buffalo King, and because it's the leader, maybe it will get 2 blue gems from it. I beg you to please endure at least 1 hit." As he was about to attack the Buffalo Boss, Zeta next to him whispered to the owner. Hansu doubted, "What do you want to ask?" Zeta suddenly whispered, "Some very strong guys are coming." Hansu felt like the sky had just collapsed. He paled and answered, "Is that so? Troublesome." Seeing the crowd starting to move here, Hansu turned pale. "What I mean is, I guess it's time for the academy to show up. It would be troublesome to fight with them now." He felt a bit regretful, but quickly made a decision. Today was really humiliating. I have no strength at all, but soon, I will show them the power of the demonic cult on this continent. Zeta respectfully replied, "As always, Master, that's great." The 2 quickly fled from there. The result today, level up 2, lapis lazuli increased by 11. I don't know how long it took. Hansu was frowning in front of the computer screen. He seemed a bit disappointed. He thought to himself, "I'm sure, no matter how many times, there is no notification about the monster area. That monster, Black Bull King, is a monster that never appeared in that area. Because my luck stat is -99, did it appear? Is it a good or bad thing? I don't know." Thinking of this, Hansu sighed, "If only the Black Bull could withstand a hit, I could get more lapis lazuli from that boss." While he was daydreaming, he suddenly saw a hot post on the forum. The content was as follows: "I went to the hunting area that was announced, but what's wrong with this difficulty? Hansu immediately clicked to see. Today I went to the Emacium dungeon, and the difficulty there was very different. Inside, black bone soldiers suddenly appeared, and there was no way we could beat them with 19 players. I feel sorry for the academy. Also, the black giant came from its area. Does anyone know why this happened to me? Hansu was startled. He felt uneasy, thinking, those are the places I went to and couldn't, impossible. It's all because of me. Hansu saw another new post. Does anyone see the black monster coming from the black area? He felt uneasy again. Are they also talking about me? The content of the post was as follows. Today I saw a player messing around, wiping out all the black bulls by himself, but he ran away when he saw the black bull king. Then, the high-level players came, they killed the black bull king too. A lot of lapis lazuli fell out all over, each group got 30. Crazy. Reading this, Hansu was extremely angry. He shouted, 3 groups, each group got 30? Hansu lay on the bed holding his head and rolling around, yelling, my damn luck. 95 stones are almost 450 million. 450 million in front of me. 450 million won. He started to calculate the total income and expenses today. Today I earned 11 lapis lazuli, almost equal to 5,500,000 gold. The food cost for 3 days for the demonic cult is about 36 million. And if I subtract the transaction fee, tax and everything, I only have about 15 million won left. There is no problem after buying gifts for CIA, or living expenses. But with the current level, shouldn't I buy a transport vehicle? My strength level is low, so I can't go to many different territories. Hansu felt a headache, or if I used the teleport skill too much, I would die. In this deadlock, Hansu could only do one thing. I have to level up as fast as light. On the other side, in a mysterious room somewhere, a man was bowing his head and reporting, so, the difficulty increased a lot. The man sitting in front of the desk suspiciously asked, Black Bull? The pale-faced man replied, yes sir, it's a monster, with all its abilities and strength enhanced. The man sitting in front of the desk calmly replied, even so, it's just a normal monster, just keep using the current hunting method, and add more people there. If necessary, we have plenty of intermediate players, ready to do anything. So, this man is the director of the Ink Association, Director John. The secretary nodded and replied, I understand. Director John continued to instruct one more thing, the player in the dark domain, it seems that he is provoking our members. Recently, I investigated if he is Zufferty and reported everything to me. We need to let him know what will happen if he acts like that again. Time quickly passed by. 3 weeks later, the system announced that you had leveled up. Hanzo Wood had a cold face. Well, he only saw the status board then. Hanzo's current level was 29. Lucer put his hand on his chest and said sincerely, Master, I, Lucer, am very worried about your body. It may be affected by the busy schedule of 3 weeks. Hansu smiled, Lucer, thank you for worrying about me. But it's okay, I'm fine and don't need to worry too much. Lucer still did not stop worrying, hesitated and said, but Master, he only saw Hansu's whole body, glowing with aura, and said loudly, even if the flesh has many limitations, I can't show a weak appearance in front of you. I want you to see the beauty of this world until the day everyone kneels before the demonic cult. I can't rest anymore, I will only pursue this goal, so don't hesitate and serve me. Hearing those firm words, Lucer felt extremely impressed by the master in front of him. He was moved, called out, Master. Lucer suddenly slammed his head hard on the ground, swore an oath, I will serve you until I die. Looking at the loyal subordinate in front of him, Hansu smiled happily and thought, all right, as you wish, for my apartment and imported car, the ultimate goal is to become a landlord. Just then, the system announced that someone was coming. Hansu vaguely guessed, maybe it's CIA. It was true, CIA sent a message, brother, do you understand? I have a mission, and it is being created worldwide. Hansu heard this for the first time, full of doubt, wondering, the mission of the 7 stars? He heard this strange new mission. Hansu quickly opened the system's announcement board, studied the system. The challenge mission of the 7 stars quickly appeared: become the stars who face the evil army and bring peace to the continent. The 7 stars must cooperate with each other to face the evil army that wants to sink the world, to fight against absolute evil. The 7 stars need to gather as soon as possible. After reading the lines in this mission, Hansu was scared and wondered, the army of absolute evil, that's worrying. Is this talking about me? After Hansu received the mission announcement, the forum also immediately filled with discussion posts. Has anyone not received the mission of the 7 stars? I heard that 7 hidden missions will be revealed. What do you think they are? First of all, I don't think people like us who have been following the academy for 20 years, will be fine. You will never be chosen if you keep thinking like that. I have hunted and farmed with bare hands. So, why don't you follow the mindset of a winner? That name can shut up already. I'm sure I'll pull out all your false teeth in a month. After reading these nonsense arguments, CIA couldn't help but say to her brother, these messages are so boring. And Hansu wondered, why are people so angry? He was a bit confused and thought, while I still don't know exactly what these hidden missions are. If they are hidden missions linked to the main mission of Olympus, they will surely be beyond imagination, right? While he was lost in thought, he was suddenly called by his sister, startling him. Brother, are you not participating in the 7 Constellation Challenge? Hansu snapped out of his previous thoughts, and then asked back, I'm not. The NPC didn't give me that kind of mission. I'm a chaotic player. CIA, are you going to participate in the challenge? He asked his sister. Unexpectedly, after asking, CIA was a bit embarrassed and replied, maybe I'm busy with the guild work, how do I have time? It seems that the top foreign players will have more time to participate in challenges like this, right? That's right, Hansu also hesitated and replied. Then he had a headache, thinking silently, anyway, the difficulty of the hunting grounds I participated in recently, all increased at the same time. Thinking carefully, the mission calling me the demonic cult is absolute evil. So in the worst case, all the mission takers might hunt me down. My life goal is to live a normal life and earn enough money to get by. But if I keep being stubborn like that, I will die. I have to become extremely strong. Hansu silently made up his mind. Then, he pressed enter quickly. The system immediately displayed the message that it was connecting to Olympus. Then he met the elders and told them, this time I will travel alone. Then all the elders were scared, and shouted in unison, no way, sir, it's too dangerous. Hansu knew they were worried about him, so he had to explain, no, I don't doubt your loyalty. But according to the information I got, your movements have been discovered by the Albert Empire. Therefore, from now on, we need to be more careful. So, this time I will go secretly by myself. Then all 3 elders were moved, teary-eyed and speechless. Sir, and then finally, they could only use their hearts to cheer for Hansu. Come back safely, sir, I know, take good care of the village. Hansu turned and replied. As he turned, he thought silently, now that the 7 Constellation Challenge is activated, I can provoke the anger of the Empire. If I bring the elders with me, they can't work with me at this time. But I can't hurt them, it would be better if I got the recognition of other elders, and when I have my strength, it will increase. Aina joined me very early, there are still many other elders, I have improved their food crisis to some extent. It was time to improve their quality of life, but the cost of living had increased tremendously. I couldn't do anything right now. Was 300 million gold reasonable to rebuild the village? All I had to do was level up by any means. I had to reach level 40 as soon as possible, so I could use the inner chi breaking meditation. I would follow this map and the missions left by my master. I hoped the next situation would appear. Of course, I wouldn't get any blue gems when I was alone, but that was also the best thing I could do at this time. Then I had to work and level up like crazy to prepare for the future. Then he silently made a resolution, I also. After that resolution, the system announced, "You have killed a giant black bear 3 times." This made Hansu feel refreshed. He muttered to himself, "It's true that you can relieve stress by fighting." Then, the system announced that, "You have learned the abnormal inner fist skill." Hansu was also startled and wondered about the skill. What happened just now? Was this a skill that helped me hunt? He thought. Then he was startled again when he looked closely at the system's announcement of the new skill, Abnormal Inner Fist. Abnormal Inner Fist held the strong will and desire of the player. It was a punch that used strong will and desire. Abnormal Inner Fist could cause abnormal damage to the opponent. The attack power decreased from 0 to 100%. Abnormal Inner Fist could be activated by the head, attacked by bare hands. Hansu was so scared that he couldn't say anything at first. It was only a while later, when he calmed down, that he couldn't help but get excited and shout, "I did it!" Reducing attack power is a rubbish skill. Then, Hansu didn't know that someone was coming behind him. He was just engrossed in the skill that he had just achieved. Could I go and gain experience with this, right? As long as I wasn't the one who finished the last monster. If I bought an animal and raised it, I would train it to collect items after a violent scene. Hansu happily made a good decision, "I'll go home." But who knew that before he was happy, suddenly a voice rang out from behind, "Finally, I found you." "Is it you?" The guy who had been sneaking behind Hansu stepped out and asked. "Now, I can go to the higher level hunting area, no more hesitation." Hansu left happily, leaving behind the corpse and Arufani's soul. Playing in the forest, Zufri was angry but couldn't do anything. He cursed that dog. He silently swore, "You bastard, I will make you pay. I swear." Right then, suddenly some magic threads appeared from nowhere and bound his soul. The system showed up. "You have been imprisoned by the soul binding skill." Zufri gritted his teeth, "What is this?" He saw a man with a gloomy aura smile and say, "You will be a very good material." This man, who radiated a dark aura, didn't know when he appeared. Standing in front of Zufri, he smiled wickedly. He sneered to himself, "I didn't expect to find such a high-quality corpse. How lucky am I?" Zufri was tied up, unable to say anything. He could only be terrified and curse silently. "Who is this bastard? What does he want to do to me?" He saw the man in the cloak pointing at Zufri's face, saying, "I was going to deal with the others too, but you alone should be enough." Zufri didn't understand what was going on. His mind gradually became unconscious. This was crazy. In the end, he couldn't resist anymore. He fell to the ground. After a while, Zufri got up in a mess, very doubtful, "Am I still alive?" At this time, the system showed a new notification, "A special chain has been set up. If you can't remove this chain, you will become a slave forever." Who would have thought that the man in the cloak was still there? He raised his hand and ordered, "Now lie down and do 10 push-ups." Zufri angrily replied, "What? Don't mess with me. Why should I do that?" Immediately, the system showed a notification, "Soul binding is activated. If you don't obey the master's command, you will suffer a terrible pain." And then a huge thunderbolt struck Zufri. Zufri was in pain. He quickly sat down and did push-ups as ordered by the other, cursing as he did. The man in the cloak sneered and said, "If you don't want to be hurt, just listen obediently." Zufri gritted his teeth, recalling his memory. He had never heard of this soul binding skill. Could it be a special skill of some profession, similar to a summoner? Based on what he had said, it seemed that he was not on the same side as the other one. If he could cooperate with him, could he have a chance to turn the tables? Thinking of this, Zufried pretended to be obedient, and called out, "Master." He immediately baited, asking the name of the one just now. "Don't you want his body? Please, let me be your assistant." Zufried bowed his head and showed a very cunning face. At the same time, at a busy shopping center somewhere on the street, the restaurant staff greeted the guests cheerfully. Next, it was the conversation of the two brothers of Hansu. "Is it true that I can eat as much as I want?" "Of course." "Can I really eat two?" "Then 3 is fine too." Looking at the pile of hamburgers in front of him, the little sister felt ecstatic, and quickly put them in her mouth, chewing like she had been starved for a year. Seeing his sister so happy, Hansu also started to think again. Maybe he had spent too much heart on raising the demonic cult, but buying her 1 or 2 hamburgers was nothing. The sister turned to ask him while eating, "Why are you suddenly treating me so well? You usually say I can only eat 1 hamburger. You must be making a lot of money, right?" Hansu didn't deny it and nodded, "Maybe very soon." He also started to carry out his main purpose. He said hoarsely, "I want to ask you something." The sister stopped eating and turned to ask, "What is it?" Hansu showed a very serious expression, and said, "The thing I ask is really important, so you have to answer seriously." The sister felt suspicious. "Why are you suddenly changing your attitude? Are you trying to steal my hamburger?" Hansu frowned, "No. Just listen." Hansu thought to himself, "My luck is very low. I don't get any items from monsters or chaotic players. Until now, I have received a lot of help from NPCs, but that is becoming harder. And above all, it is too difficult to take care of a pet." Thinking of this, he decided to ask his sister if she wanted to start a business with him. His sister had just taken a sip of water and spat it out when she heard him. She asked loudly, "Are you serious? Who would start a business at this time?" She said, "The market is stagnant because of the dark monsters. I will soon level up. So why don't you think more carefully about this business idea?" Hansu replied solemnly, "I know what you mean, but I still want to ask you. Do you want to start a business with me?" Seeing his serious expression, his sister stopped persuading him and asked, "What is your plan? Tell me your idea." Hansu smiled smugly and began to explain. At the same time, in the Ink Association, in the conference room, the senior managers were having an urgent meeting. Director Zen John said in a low voice, "Didn't many of our people die in the Dark Valley?" The chaotic player said he wouldn't kill us as long as we didn't bother him. A middle-aged man answered, "That's why we put up signs saying not to touch the chaotic players." This man was the chairman of the NC Association. He was surprised to hear Zen John say, "However, it seems that the chaotic player is not Zufried. Look at this video. This is the video we recorded earlier." Clearly, Zufried and the chaotic player had a duel. The chairman smiled faintly, "I didn't expect him to attack Duan Fim." Zen John didn't answer but continued to analyze the video. Zufried made a wrong choice. He fought recklessly, even though his defensive magic was broken. And our final conclusion after analyzing Duan Fim, the one who killed Zufried, is that he is a very high-level fighter. The others were surprised and said, "He looks quite young." Zen John nodded and continued, "We assume that he has received a hidden skill, with a very young age. It seems that he still doesn't know how to fully exploit his potential, and while collecting information, we received an enhancement quest from a noble NPC." Hearing that, the chairman of the association asked in surprise, "So what is the content of that quest?" Zen John replied, "The quest is related to capturing someone, named Zambadian. Currently, the nobles have revealed that Zambadian is a chaotic-oriented player. This is his portrait." Looking at the man with a gaunt face, everyone was a bit surprised. "Isn't he a bit different from the person in that video?" Zen John nodded, "That's right," he continued. "According to our latest investigation, we asked the nobles again if they were sure about that person. The result was, the system had determined that there was nothing wrong here. It also confirmed that killing the man in Duanfim also satisfied the condition of completing the quest. Wouldn't it be better if we followed the person we already knew instead of the Zambadian guy who we don't know where he is? The chairman smiled coldly and viciously. As long as we get the enhancement points, that doesn't matter. So how many people do you need? Zen John smiled and said, I think 30 people are enough. If we play the human C tactic, things will be much easier. If they die, we will pay 100,000 won for compensation. And the reward will be 3 million won. A girl in the meeting room spoke up, 100,000 won consolation and 3 million won for the reward. Is that enough? After all, they have to risk their lives. Even if they die in Olympus, it's still very painful. Zen John smiled wickedly. We have enough enhancement points we need, so the members of the association will try their best. More importantly, wouldn't it be better to leave the hard work to the young people? The chairman also agreed with this opinion, and whispered quietly. So the amount of 3 million won seems reasonable. Zen John continued to present, the reward for this case is 7 billion won. 2 billion is for the chairman of the association, Lee Sad-chin split 3 billion. After deducting the consolation money and the reward, the remaining reward is for the others. The chairman immediately agreed, that's fine, go ahead. He thought evilly, 300 million will be enough. The people over there die, so what, as long as we make money. The next day at the Lepmian mountain range, CIA seemed very hurried holding a stack of books in her hand. She ran over and shouted to her brother, Hey, I'm here, did I get all the books you told me to? Hansu happily asked his sister. The girl nodded and then hesitated to ask, Yes, they are all here. But are these books really enough? They are low quality, and I bet they are worse than the books that the mages use. She said with a bit of regret, and then explained to Hansu that first of all, he could not learn the contents of these books because he had changed his profession. With his level and experience points, there was no way he had not changed his profession yet, right? She timidly asked Hansu's thoughts. But contrary to her worry, Hansu just calmly flipped a few pages of the books, glanced at them and asked, Have you ever heard the saying, when a swordsman swings a weed, the weed becomes a sword? I don't think so. CIA answered confusedly, and then heard him explain that this case was the same. A player with monstrous stats could even turn a normal attack into their ultimate move, and with his level being a Sadama, it was a waste. Don't you think so? He asked while flipping through the books. As he flipped, the system also kept notifying him. You learn the skill light, you learn the skill fireball, you learn the skill basic healing, you learn the skill damage boost, you learn the skill defense. And after hearing him finish, she was shocked to the point of bulging her eyes and screaming, Oh my God! You really haven't changed your profession yet? He was telling the truth. Hansu confirmed this firmly to his sister. Then she immediately got angry. She jumped up and down and shouted excitedly, With your ability, who would think that you haven't changed your profession yet? I know your stats are crazy, but come on. I trusted you and even left my job for this. But you don't even have a profession yet? I don't know, you better take responsibility for this. Now I've also bet with you. Hansu looked at her non-stop screaming. He had to calm her down. He knew that was why he was very grateful to her. Let's make history together. He seriously proposed to her. Then, CIA also had to follow him. She was unarmed, stood in front of him for him to experiment and asked, So you've never used magic before, and you want to try using the basic healing spell on me first? But isn't it theoretically almost ineffective? This is just low-level magic. Well, let's try it anyway. Hansu answered briefly, then raised his hand, used his power to start healing CIA and said, I still have my stats, and I'm sure it will have a significant effect. As he said, the basic healing skill was also immediately performed on CIA. She was also surprised by his skill. After a while Hansu finished experimenting, CIA took out a blood bottle and carefully asked him, "Are you done? Can I drink the blood bottle now?" But before she could unscrew the cap, Hansu stopped her and said, "You're full of blood already." CIA heard that and quickly checked her blood bar. Unbelievably, it was as he said, which scared her to the point of opening her eyes and screaming, "What the hell is this? How can I be full of blood? Is this true?" But Hansu didn't explain much, but continued to raise his hand, using another skill on her. "This blood recovery spell is enough. Let's try the buff. I will cast the damage and defense buff on you. So you should try to fight with some small monsters." CIA, after becoming my experiment, was still scared. She asked me which monster she should fight. Should she try with some skeleton soldiers? But Hansu seemed to have prepared everything. He pointed his hand behind her and said, "Look, they are already standing there waiting for you." "Behind me, did you call the monsters?" CIA was surprised but still turned her head to see what he brought. To her shock, she could only say 3 words, "Giant bear, what?" The bear was not a gentle one. As soon as CIA saw it, it roared to show its strength. Hearing its roar, CIA was so scared that she didn't dare to move. She was so helpless that she held her weapon tightly in her hand, but still whispered, "Hey, do you want me to kill that thing by myself? Isn't that a monster that only a few teams can handle?" But despite CIA's initial fear, in less than 3 minutes, the system announced, "Giant bear has been killed." The monster bear lay on the ground, unable to say a word. CIA was so scared that she sat down on the ground and shouted, "Hey, you are crazy, really crazy." But Hansu was still happy and asked the girl, "Right, now you don't regret your choice anymore, right?" "Yes, of course." CIA answered shakily, because she was still a bit amazed by the giant power she had just received. Then she saw something fall on the ground. CIA picked it up and exclaimed, "Hey, it's blue stone. I just earned $5,000 with the combined power of the two of us." That's when Hansu asked her, "Do you understand the problem now? If you give this to the association, they will surely pay you $100 to get over it. But because neither of us joined any organization, everything we earn is ours," he said, and happily called his sister. "We will level up at least 4 or 5 levels in the dark wilderness. Let's go." Okay, CIA was also very excited and enthusiastic, following her brother. After a while of walking together, the 2 siblings finally reached the dark wilderness. Here, Hansu took the initiative, attracting the monsters living here. He seemed very relaxed, walking calmly even though the monsters were chasing him closely with a very fierce look. They also roared to intimidate the 2 siblings. But this time, not only Hansu but also CIA was very confident. She was not shaky like before, but quickly used her scepter to read the spell. After the power filled the scepter, CIA quickly grabbed her weapon and rushed forward, joining forces with her brother. "I'm here," she shouted enthusiastically. Then she launched a lightning strike, creating lightning bolts that attacked the beasts like a chain. Hansu was also amazed. After an hour, when he heard the system announce that he had hunted many black bulls, after finishing the monsters, CIA was also very happy, holding her scepter and shouting, "Awesome." Hansu also praised his sister, "You did a great job, you got more blue stones." CIA walked up to her brother, holding the lamb stones in her hand, which made her fascinated. "Brother, we have dropped 18 lamb stones already. If we sell this whole pile, we will make $90,000. She calculated very accurately and told her brother, ignoring Hansu who seemed to be silently observing something. CIA was just happy to enjoy the joy of lamb stones. She kept screaming, "This is crazy, with this money, we can even open a restaurant." Hansu was looking at the sparse people over there. He wondered if it was because of the dark monster. But this place was not as famous as before. There were not many players. While he was thinking, suddenly a player came from above. He wanted to hit Hansu's head with a stick. He shouted, "Die, you low-level guy." He did not know that Hansu had seen him with a glance. He was annoyed. But there were still some players who liked to cause trouble. He thought and quickly turned around. He used a punch with an active skill. The punch was powerful. He punched the guy away. He also reminded his sister, "There is one more guy. Finish him off for me." CIA did not say much. She pulled out her electric club. She immediately used the electric shock to deal with the enemy. Seeing that, Hansu also reminded his sister, "If he drops anything, remember to pick it up." CIA was very obedient. She quickly bent down to pick up the items. But then she hesitated and said to her brother, "I'm taking the things they got." "But isn't this stealing?" Hearing his sister's question, Hansu was not angry. He gently explained to her that they all attacked him because he was a low-level player. And we only fought back against those who attacked us first. If they attacked us, we couldn't just stand still and take it. "Look over there, there are more people coming," he said and signaled to CIA, looking over to the place not far from where they were standing. CIA looked over and saw that at this moment, there was a group of people coming over. To be more precise, it was an army. CIA was very surprised and said, "Brother, it seems like their levels are quite high." Hansu calmly replied, "I think they are at least level 50 or above. There are also many." Hearing that, CIA worriedly asked, "So they came here to kill you?" Hansu nodded, "Probably." CIA saw her brother so calm. She was very panicked. "What are you doing?" "We have to run." Hansu said in a low voice, "I think it's too late to do that now." He saw that the group of people had stood in front of them. The system showed, until the player versus player battle is over, players are not allowed to leave the designated area. CIA saw those lines and felt that her life was over. She widened her eyes. "We're doomed." While she was very panicked, CIA received a private message from Hansu, "You don't have to worry. You stay away from me, so that we don't look like we're on the same side." Hansu sneered, looking at the crowd of people swarming like ants. He asked with contempt, "How many people have been sent to catch one person?" He said, "I will not kill anyone, if you all retreat immediately. This is your last chance." Hearing these fierce threats, the leader of the soldiers drew his sword and replied, "Fine." He shouted to the soldiers behind him, "What we need to do is keep our distance and follow the plan." This person was the vice president of the Jinka Association. He immediately ordered, "Wizards, cast the binding magic." At this point, Hansu sighed and held his head. He saw the system notification that a skill from outside was trying to bind him, but he successfully resisted it. He looked at the people who wanted to die in front of him and said coldly, "I'm sure I warned you before. If you retreat, I will not kill anyone." He waved his hand and the chain broke easily. Next, he threw a fireball. Seeing the not-so-big ball flying towards him, the vice president sneered, "Low-level magic?" He quickly yelled, "Let the soldiers with shields behind, move forward and resist." He used the magic breaking skill, the skill breaking community skill, and blocked the weak skill of that guy. The vice president confidently declared, "Even if it is a powerful magic skill, the Zambadian people are close combat professionals. These weak magics are nothing." Next was the enhancement of 3,000 times. And at this time, Hansu's fireball also hit the layers of super shield enhancement. Looking at Hansu's calm face, we could guess the next development of the battle. Hansu looked disdainfully at the pile of rubble in front of him. He said, "Now who is the Zambadian here?" "You are mistaken, like that Zufridi guy." The super shield enhancement was quickly destroyed. The vice president gasped and backed away. He wondered, what happened? But there was a more shocking thing waiting for him to see. he saw the corpses of the soldiers in front of him and his eyes almost fell to the ground. He exclaimed, "What? They are all dead? What is this? What the hell is going on? Why are they all dead? Wasn't he a close combat type?" The vice president trembled and ordered the remaining people. "Wait, everyone stand still, wait for orders." He was scared and remembered the fireball earlier. It was only a low-level wizard, but the power was so terrifying. He was a wizard. No way. If he was a high-level wizard, there was no way the binding spell would work. But then, he stood still and had to fight this monster. What should he do? Should he run away? Hansu was silent, watching the vice president struggling with his thoughts. He smiled faintly and said to him, "As soon as you touch my magic, you will die anyway." Just then, Hansu received a private message from CIA. She said, "This is the first time I see a fireball with willpower." Hansu smiled. He said, "Yeah, me too." CIA was startled and remembered to send another message. She asked, "But hey, aren't you tied up right now?" Seeing Hansu shake his head, CIA was very surprised and asked, "No? Then why don't you move and just stand still?" Hansu nodded. He said, "Well, because I'm talking to you, and the fireball skill hasn't recovered yet. I want to use this skill on them a few more times." Seeing his brother's evil face and pretending to be stupid, CIA was a bit shocked but also secretly despised him. This brother is really not normal.